Hi everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Genre Equality Podcast. I'm Hidzir.
Howdy.
I'm Isa.
Hope you're all doing well in self-imposed isolation if you are on lockdown or just stuck in quarantine. Hope everyone's doing okay, watching good stuff. Please try to stay inside as much as possible unless absolutely necessary.
Wash your hands.
That's true. But on the plus side, right, it's given us here at Genre Equality like a lot of time to watch stuff and read things.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately though, I mean, a lot of the big topics we wanted to talk about this month, Mulan for example, pushed, A Quiet Place Part 2 also pushed.
And not released, right?
No. Certain movies are too big to be on VOD. Because they just know that they're going to make too much money in the box office. Black Widow, for example, Wonder Woman 1984.
Not Bloodshot.
Not Bloodshot. So things like The Invisible Man, Gretel and Hansel, and Onward, and Bloodshot, and movies of that ilk have been released on VOD almost immediately.
Okay, but for Invisible Man, they had already released it earlier?
Yes, but it's only a 1-month run, which is quite short.
Oh, okay. So then the next
generally it's a 6-month run before you can go to the VOD. And for Bloodshot, it was only a 1-week run.
1 week run, yeah.
Yeah. And I think towards the end of it, we'll be talking about like what COVID-19 means for the cinema industry going forward, because a lot of distributors have been experimenting just releasing the stuff online. Will it be the death knell for theatrical releases?
I don't think so.
I mean, we don't know.
We don't know lah.
We don't know.
It really depends on how they control the virus in the end.
I mean, I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about like what if distributors now just realize that they don't need cinemas? You know, what if this experiment is successful? They're making billions of dollars just by people buying on iTunes or Amazon Prime or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I get that, but you see, the thing is, this is because it's extenuating circumstances, right?
Yes, but it was already going this way, and this virus just forced it to happen sooner.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that once we get back to work and once we get back to our regular scheduled programming, it might not be as lucrative lah. Though it might shift perceptions lah, definitely.
Correct. Yeah. Anyways, we'll be talking about a lot of stuff that, thank God, is available on
VOD.
I mean streaming, digital, and good old TV lah. Yeah, that's happening. So a couple of the big topics that we're talking about is Steven Universe Future,
finale, right?
The final season.
Series finale.
Of course, we'll be talking about the first ever season of Picard.
Mixed bag.
Yes. Castlevania, third season is happening. Invisible Man, Altered Carbon, which I did not watch because I was out from
Mixed
the
bag
first season
also.
onwards. Yeah. So I mean, and Isa is going to be covering the new Violet Evergarden movie, which came out in Singapore theaters early this year, but it's available tomorrow if you're listening to this live
on Netflix.
On Netflix,
right?
On April 2nd.
Okay.
So this episode will be released on April 1st. Tomorrow you can go watch it.
It's not April Fools.
Not April Fools, for real. The Violet Evergarden Auto Memory Dolls.
Eternity and Auto Memory. Yeah.
It's a very long title, so I forgot about it. Let's begin with the final season of Steven Universe Future. Hadi is not. I mean, he's watching Steven Universe, but he hasn't caught up to the end.
All the way to the end. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious. Where are you at the moment?
Season 2.
Oh wow. Okay. How
quite
many
a bit,
seasons?
Episode
6
seasons.
6 plus a movie lah.
Yeah. It's very short.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's an easy kind of watch.
10 minutes per episode, and all of that. Yeah.
I got no time.
No, it's fine.
Slowly.
Hadi is the one of us who actually still has like a job.
Yeah.
Because of this, because the rest of us are freelancers, and gigs have just gone to hell, especially for people who work in events and music and things like that. Hadi is an insurance agent, and if any time people in insurance is now.
So I've been busy.
So some people have been seeing a boom, and others not so much.
Different industries.
Yeah. But anyways, the 6th and final season of Steven Universe is called Steven Universe Future. It is built as an epilogue, and I think it is fitting to be built as an epilogue because it really isn't like any other previous seasons of Steven Universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Rebecca Sugar ends her very kind and brave cartoon with this epilogue season that explores the emotional aftermath of heroic optimism and intergalactic peace. These last 10 episodes in Steven Universe Future as a whole has followed the sweet boy growing up into a confused young man, and with no villains to fight, the series forgoes action to dig deep into the issues that Steven has come to terms with emotionally and even physically before he can truly have his happily ever after. So yes, the world and the galaxy has been reformed thanks to his kindness and adventures, but he has repressed trauma from his past adventures and anger at his mother's legacy. Negative aspects of the ever positive Steven that he has kept bottled up, I guess. Plus, he has to also grapple with the idea that his friends are moving on. Nobody quite, quote-unquote, needs Steven anymore. And Steven's abandonment issues and insecurities are at full bore here. It causes him to spiral into self-doubt. And the series has this gorgeously intuitive way to guide him out of it. It's quite heady stuff for a kid's cartoon. But it's also typically ambitious for a Steven Universe arc. And therefore, I guess, a fitting emotional arc to end on, even if watching it wind down makes its departure more bittersweet. So what do you think about Steven Universe future?
I mean, I've been a big fan of this since, I don't know, 3 years ago when we started this.
Yeah.
Right. And just generally, it's a little sad to kind of see it go. I mean, Steven Universe is responsible for some of the most, not iconic, but some really, really great music, right? That is seen in animation anywhere, right? I think Rebecca Sugar and her team have done a phenomenal job, and they've kind of stuck to their guns. I was just reading kind of the interviews that she recently did, about the end of the series and all of that. And then I went back to reread some of the early interviews that she did when Steven Universe started picking up traction online and all of that. It's amazing to think that such a great piece of work came out of Tumblr, basically.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
A lot of great pieces of work has come out from online. We're just living in that time now.
But for it to kind of supersede and outlast the platform in which it...
Sure.
It's just something that...
It makes Cartoon Network almost feel archaic.
Oh, yeah, extremely. Yeah. I think the format in which they've chosen to go about it, and even the choices that they've made with, the way they spaced out the seasons, the short episodes, the movie itself, and finally now coming down to Future itself, right? It's been very cogent, despite the different ways that they've gone about it. And it's a fitting end.
Yeah, this has been the most different season, I think. It's a bit more emotionally complex, less action-driven, and very painful at looking how a maturing Steven handles his adult life and relationships.
Yeah.
The new society has helped shape how does that affect him, how does that affect the world. A lot of people end on a happy ending, but then, there are thieving pains to basically having a new world order.
Yeah. So what happens in Happily Ever After, right?
Yeah, and also its internal themes of empathy and identity and mental health has always been illustrated through the inventiveness of animation and science fiction otherworldliness.
Yep.
But this really felt like prestige drama, kind of let's sit down and what's wrong with you kind of thing.
It's fascinating.
It feels more real.
It really, really does, because I don't think after watching the movie, right, and we've talked about that as well, I didn't think that they would do one more. That was before Rebecca Sugar came out and said they were going to be doing Future. But the form in which Future thing is altogether really, really, it took me by surprise. It really, really did.
I mean sometimes it's expressed through fantastical episodes, like trippy episodes, for example the Camp Pining Hearts episode is expressed through fan fiction, really enough. Some of his issues are explored through that, but other times it's jarringly grounded, like episodes when Connie's mom, who is a doctor, examines Steven and diagnoses the many traumatic injuries he's had over the years. And despite the fact that his gem powers heal him immediately, those horrific broken bones and near-death experiences must have a profound effect on a child's psyche.
Exactly.
And physically enduring trauma is one thing, but emotionally healing is something completely different. And just because Steven saved the universe doesn't mean that he has the tools to save himself. And I love that the show did this. It's something that even most adult shows don't address. And Steven reacts to minor stresses in the same way that he reacts to universe-ending events, because that's all he knows. And when his support structure is taken away, Steven struggles.
It's just okay, and this is something that I was kind of thinking about while I was watching Future. It's I don't think enough time has passed, right, for kids who started watching Steven Universe to hit the age whereby they would be able to connect with a young teen.
This is like Deathly Hallows stuff. It should be years after.
So to what end does that what kind of effect does that have, right, for kids to kind of who have followed through all of that? Maybe they're in their early teens and kind of
still
going
12, 13, me. Tweens,
right? Tweens and Future is much, much more adult than that.
A few years, 3 years jumped between the last season and the movie, and then a few months after that.
Yeah.
So he's like 16 now.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's clear for us adults who have been really into it,
or who've experienced being 13 and then 16.
Yeah. Right. And you have all these things where we are kind of reflecting on that, and like our I mean, the whole entire arc of Steven and his adventures as an analog for growing up, right? Like we can reflect and we can see and we can connect with these things. I'm just curious because it's not like, you know, you kind of grow up with it. It's not like Toy Story, for example, where you basically grew up with that and then you deal with those adult themes as you are much, much older.
Yeah, like 10-year differences between Toy Story movies.
Yeah, so it's curious. I'm just kind of wondering because my nephew has started watching Steven Universe.
How's he going to deal with Future?
Yeah. And I'm curious to kind of see, you know, whether he can connect with that and so on and so forth. I mean, like, Steven Universe is groundbreaking. It really, really is. And I think like now at its end, we can look back and say like a lot of the new things that people are trying to do in animation as far as like representation in kids media.
She-Ra, for example.
Yeah, She-Ra is a great example. Also a great series, I have to say.
I mean, not as great as Steven Universe, but clearly influenced by it.
Yeah, definitely like head and shoulders. Steven Universe head and shoulders above anything else that we have right at the moment. But so much of the complexity that they have built into the world itself, right, has given people like shown the potential and the promise that you can have good quality children's animation that deals with deep issues.
Yeah, I mean, of course, credit has to be given to Adventure Time, where a lot of Steven Universe creators came from.
Yes,
and Adventure Time kind of did it a bit before Steven Universe, but just never in the depth that Steven Universe did it. But I mean, you know, one of the catalysts for it, like, it's like The Sopranos of children's cartoons. And I really feel like Adventure Time is The Sopranos. It like branched out into this whole new prestige cartoon era.
Yeah.
You know, and like Steven Universe final season, it makes it clear that it wasn't going to take the easy way out of its cataclysmic events. And unlike many cartoons for children, like you mentioned, its characters don't bounce back unscathed, like nothing ever happened. Instead, it explores the aftermath of the show's game-changing adventures and how its characters would adjust to the new normal. In doing so, it allowed Steven the room to have a true crisis of faith by giving him nothing to do. No wars to fight, no friends to rescue, but be himself, whoever that may be. And after teasing us with a few idyllic episodes about a peaceful new status quo, Future plunged face first into Steven's confusion and trauma with the kind of consideration, I think, typical of the series. He's used to being the one who helps everyone in their time of need. And Steven has refused to let anyone help him in his own time of need. And confused by his debilitating depression during an objectively stable world, Steven blames himself for not being able to cope better. And even when a doctor gently suggests that he's dealing with a whole lifetime of trauma, he's still lost without a defined purpose. So he loses a grip on what he wants. And I think putting the show's hero in this kind of precarious position, and showing like unflattering sides of his psyche, it's a huge risk that in the show's final 4 episodes try to pay off. The Steven Universe team is very aware of its audience, a cross-section of like starry-eyed kids and adults, and trusts them to understand Steven's struggles, having followed him to the ends of the galaxy and back again. Just like Steven's friends and family on the show want nothing more than for Steven to understand that he doesn't have to shoulder everyone's burden, that he's more than enough on his own and he is worthy of love even when he doesn't believe in it himself. That's kind of the grace of extending an open mind and sympathetic hand, not just to your friends, not just to your enemies, but to yourself
as well.
And I think that is the legacy of Steven Universe. What do you think?
I mean, I actually am really amazed at the way that they treated the treatment of PTSD. Right? And as I was watching the whole thing, I'm reminded of that initial encounter in the first episode that he has with Jasper, right? Who is clearly, suffering from PTSD. She's a war vet. She's got nothing to do. She's continuing to train for this eventual, conflict that's going to happen. And all of that is fine and good. And in the first episode, Steven isn't aware that he's going through the exact same thing. And he is unable to come. So his relationship with Jasper, I think, as kind of a catalyst or even like a foreshadowing of this adventure that Steven has to overcome, or this struggle that Steven has to overcome, was very succinct. And very, very it was so smart, so well done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't require you to deviate anywhere from everything that's happened in the past. You know, like he's worried about Jasper. He's worried that, you know, he's one of the few that doesn't or can't acclimatize and all of that. With the entire time Jasper just being a mirror or a reflection of what he is going through and has problems coming to terms with.
Yeah.
And that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, like, in taking its characters' feelings seriously, even when its characters couldn't take themselves seriously, it assured the audience that we too kind of deserve the kind of compassion we would more likely extend to others.
Yeah.
In finding hope in like a lot of dark places, it showed how crisis can lead to catharsis, rather than bottling up your negative emotions, which is what Steven has been doing in the first 5 seasons. And a lot of people, I know Rebecca Sugar has talked about this a lot. A lot of people think that is a strength of Steven. She sees it as a weakness of Steven.
Yeah.
That he is so helpful, that he's so positive. That's not a healthy way of being.
Yeah. And the fact that he just feels responsible for so many things.
Correct. Yeah. But like it also shows that, you know, this chosen family, that they've showed up every day to care for one another. It shows us how we can support each other and how asking for help isn't a weakness but a necessity.
Yeah.
In making its heroes powerful by virtue of generosity rather than their physical force. The series has kind of flipped convention on its head and heralded the kind of emotional fortitude that too many shows dismiss or take for granted. And imagine an innovative world in which the biggest strength of a person or gem can have its kindness. It makes it sound simple, but as Steven Universe has proved over and over again, it's the kind of future that's worth fighting for. It's kind of what the show is all about, and this epilogue season is all about. So, I mean, in conclusion, what do you think about like the last 10 episodes and how they wrap up and everything?
Very brave, I think. Very surprising. I wasn't really expecting the way that they got about it. Very smart storytelling, and all of these are all like things that we've seen, right? Like throughout all the seasons. But the willingness to go that one extra step is really indicative of the kind of artist that Rebecca Sugar and the team are. And I really respect that. I feel like we are in almost like we say we're in the golden age of TV right now, pretty much, but like to be able to say we're in the golden age of like kids cartoons,
children's animation,
with Steven Universe, with She-Ra not too much, but like Hilda, for example, or even Kipo and the age of
Wonder Beast. All these shows are Steven Universe influence. It's easy to tell.
Yeah, and like for us to be able to say that, for us as adults, like grown as men, sitting here and like completely enjoying and empathizing with what we are watching is a masterstroke, I think.
Yeah. And I know this is the most obvious thing, so a lot of people don't say it, but the music is fucking phenomenal in Steven Universe. God. And I actually think that now that the show is ended, it's Banan the best soundtrack and best scored TV show in the history of TV.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think I'm being hyperbolic. I really believe that it's the best soundtrack show ever that I've ever seen. And it's a really great way to cap off one of the greatest cartoons ever created, and certainly one of the best 21st century genre shows that I've ever seen. I'm actually gonna rate this slightly higher than how I rated The Good Place and the BoJack Horseman's final season. It's a 9.5 out of 10.
Well, it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So highly recommend, guys. It's a really easy commitment, even if you're starting from scratch, right?
Yes.
The total amount of time won't take you a week to get through.
Yeah.
Like easy stuff. It's quite a ride, and really, like, if you enjoyed watching cartoons as a kid, this is pretty life changing, I have to say. Like, it's a completely different experience watching a kid's cartoon as an adult. Of this quality.
Especially in a time like this when people are stuck at home, it's going to take a couple of days to finish 6 seasons and a movie. It's really one of the quickest watches you can have.
Highly recommend.
Next up, the newest entry in CBS All Access, which is basically the Star Trek channel at this point, because they have nothing except Discovery. And Picard. I mean, they have like Twilight Zone also, but that's on hiatus. So
that's also Sci-Fi.
It's the Star Trek, the new Star Trek channel. So in the first ever season of Star Trek Picard, I just have to say, like, in the long history of sci-fi starship captains, and even in Star Trek's own illustrious history, for me, Jean-Luc Picard is the greatest captain ever depicted on screen.
Hell yes.
And it wasn't just because Patrick Stewart is such a phenomenal actor. It was that he was so different than the others. He exuded the ideals of Starfleet in his every action. He wasn't an action-based character. Picard was a thinker, a diplomat, a philosopher, an anthropologist, a scientist, an explorer, an academic. Yeah. His greatest strength came through his words and his wisdom and open-mindedness.
And his subtlety.
Not his physicality or fighting prowess. Conflict was always a last resort. But conflict did come, and he was a capable fighter too. So he could be physical. He could tussle like Kirk. He possessed the moral complexity of Sisko and the resoluteness of Janeway, and he was all of them. He was moral but not infallible.
He was Picard, man.
He's the consummate statesman.
Yeah.
The blueprint of like what a man should be in the future, like the ideal person.
Where all toxic masculinity is like ripped out of him.
Correct, yeah, and I do have to say, like in the late 80s, early 90s, he was like the kind of fictional father figure I clung to when like I had none in my real life. So as a massive fan of TNG, the Next Generation, and a lifelong admirer of Picard, it goes without saying that Star Trek Picard, obviously, the most anticipated show of 2020 for me.
Star Trek wise, in general, because of your love for Star Trek.
Because of my love for Picard, which like predates things like Buffy or everything else, even. So this series is set at the end of the 24th century, 20 years after the event of Star Trek Nemesis, which came out in 2002.
Canon, by the way.
Yes. Even the first 5 minutes of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is canon. Because that takes place in Prime Universe, Romulan supernova and everything.
Yep.
So the focus is on the effect of the destruction of the android commander Data, which occurred in the climax of that film, as well as the destruction of the planet Romulus, which occurred in the 2009
Abrams,
Star Trek. Both sparked the political reality of this new era where Starfleet has turned away from its ideals and become more isolationist and security driven. And given where I think the furthest in the timeline that we've seen so far is the end of Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
And given where Deep Space Nine left off after the Dominion War, it makes perfect sense for Starfleet to go in this direction. It's quite believable.
Yes.
Old and weary and now retired Admiral Picard is disillusioned with the Federation. That is until a conspiracy involving rogue synths, a reclaimed Borg cube, a
Romulan secret cult
cabal of Romulan spies, agents draws him into one last adventure. But unlike TNG, this series doesn't explore space.
Not much. Yeah.
So much as explore the man himself and his complicated legacy.
Therefore, Star Trek Picard,
yeah. And of course, like all Star Trek stories, there is a moral dilemma at the end. Picard does depart from standard Star Trek structure with a slower, serialized story.
Yep.
I mean, it's not as revolutionary as Michael Chabon would like you to think it is, because that was Deep Space Nine too.
Yeah.
But it also tackles like a lot of timely themes, like all Star Treks do, and it does so. It tries to do so with grace, and I think like while I liked it overall, I must admit that the story itself unfolds much too slowly.
And also the payoff wasn't that like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
you know, it's a very okay.
It's kind of emblematic of the bloat that defines streaming TV now. I feel I feel like its first 3 episodes could have easily been condensed into one episode.
Yeah.
And while I'm not against character-driven story, it doesn't have to come at the expense of Star Trek sci-fi creativity as well, because there was very little sci-fi involved.
Very little.
Yeah. And the whole show felt tedious. And for a series that claims to be focused on character, a lot of his new characters outside of Picard, of course,
are one-dimensional.
Feel lazily sketched and hollow and one-dimensional.
Yep.
The politics it explores are timely and resonant, but unusually simplistic for Star Trek. Star Trek's political, cultural, and theological dilemmas, even in standalone episodes, are often way more nuanced and complex and exciting than what is presented here. And yeah, I mean, what do you think about Star Trek?
I like the Easter eggs.
Sure.
Thanks to you.
Yeah.
So Hidzir got me to watch a bunch of old TNG episodes to prep me for Picard.
Yeah, I wish I had gotten you into some Voyager episodes too, because there was some
Voyager
exactly.
references. Especially with like what's her name?
Ichab 7 of 9.
Yeah. So it was quite interesting to see like Hugh coming back. Jerry Ryan's character, what's her name again?
7 of 9.
7 of 9.
I mean her character's real name is Annika Hansen, but she doesn't respond to that anymore ever since she was assimilated.
Yeah, and to see what the future of Star Trek is.
Yeah.
It was still quite heartening lah, you know, to see all these old characters, especially Picard, and his little rant, like an old man who is past his prime, and
he doesn't know how to captain the new starships.
The new starships is a bit out of place.
Yeah, touchscreen, bro.
Touchscreen. Very cool touchscreen though.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind that there was no space exploration to the extent of like TNG, because this is not what this series is about, right?
I mean, Deep Space Nine didn't explore space either. It was set on a space station.
Yeah, lah. Therefore, it's called Deep Space Nine, lah.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah, so Picard, I expected it to be focused on one story that involves Picard.
The person.
The person.
Yeah.
And they did quite a good job
on Picard.
Employing Picard all the way.
Fantastic job on Picard.
Right? Yeah. But the new secondary characters like the ninja guy. Elnor. I liked him at the beginning, but then it kind of like petered out in the end. And you could say the same for almost every single character. Even Rafi, who had such an interesting backstory at the beginning.
Sure.
And
you mean like the 5 seconds you spent with her child?
Yeah, like explore more.
And then and then that was it.
And that was it.
Yeah.
It petered out also. Yeah. And then that's it.
Yeah.
So a lot of these moments where you're like, oh man, I wish they just explored it a bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
But it was always exciting to watch a new episode because you're pushing an interesting story about these synthetics who are so real that they are essentially a new life form
it's actually, I mean, like, we won't spoil in case you haven't seen it It will just give general thoughts, but like it's safe to say that these Sims are descended from Data. It's kind of
in the trailer.
It's kind of revealed in the first episode too, so it's not a big deal but it's about Sims in general. And while I liked it overall, right? Like, I mean, overall,
some things bothered you, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, number one, can we like totally do away with the swearing? It's just
just a bit off, right?
It's not Star Trek Like curse words are meant to be signifiers of mature material, but Picard didn't feel appreciably more adult. As in sophisticated than its predecessors. At times it felt even less because of the swearing.
It felt like correct. I agree.
This is like a kid trying to be like, look how
adult I am now.
I say fuck all the time. The show gave supporting characters, at least old supporting characters, like huge emotional moments.
Yes.
Like 7 of 9, played by Jerry Ryan, has to temporarily plug back into the Borg collective to stop the Romulans from killing everyone on the cube. Agnes, played by Alison Pill, is brainwashed into murdering her mentor/lover, Bruce Maddox, and then. But the thing is, all these big emotional moments, like, they race through the aftermath. Like, how does 7 of 9 feel about being part of the Borg again for a moment? Not addressed. Agnes murdered her lover.
But like what you said, the build-up was there, right?
Yeah.
They were like, oh my god, I don't know whether I will want to let them go.
Yeah.
And then nothing.
And then Agnes like murdered her lover and mentor. And then she cried one time at the dinner table.
And everybody's like, okay, cool.
Alright, we're over it, You murdered a dude, but it's cool.
That was my issue too.
Yeah, man, wow, it really bothered me in that sense. But
I feel like they were trying to rush back to Picard. You know what I mean?
The show is Picard.
So I felt they're just, okay, let's go, done, let's go just talk about Picard again.
Yeah, I mean, like, in fairness, all the other Star Trek shows have been ensemble shows, so they will spend more time on supporting characters. So this is a one character show, as if it's in the title.
It's in the title.
Yeah. That being said, like, Patrick Stewart, like, absolutely keeps me engaged. Within the first 15 minutes.
Go on, by the way.
Picard delivers, like, one of his trademark monologues about morality and duty in, like, the first 15 minutes. They just like brought me to tears, and I was like,
that was a good one.
That's a Picard thing. It was in hook, line, and sinker from then, and Patrick Stewart's like sheer force of presence held this kind of rough first season together, as the deep cut callbacks as well. A lot of the famous Borg characters like Hugh, you mentioned from the Next Generation's episode, Iborg, 7 of 9, and Icheb from Voyager. So bringing them in a Borg adjacent story made sense. It wasn't just like, oh, remember this, but like because they had value to the current story, because of course they had to be there as a Borg story, and my favorite moments came from Picard's reunion with Troy and Riker.
The Riker moment.
In episode 7, I think, called Nempenfe.
The one they're cooking the pizza.
The pizza episode.
Yeah, pizza episode.
Which kind of like it made me cry so hard that I had to like pause the episode to like just compose myself for a while. The episode really re-energized what I felt was a flagging season up till then, leading into a climax that was I think like partially redeemed most of the season, because I didn't enjoy anything up till first 7.
There were a lot of moments.
There are a lot of moments.
But it was never like, oh, that was a solid episode.
Correct, but then like once the pieces started to come together and the mystery coheres, it becomes like more exciting and more propulsive. And I think the finale in terms of like action and emotion was really good. It tied up everything in the most Trek way imaginable, with a Picard speech about faith and love and understanding and empathy that averts a galactic genocide, which
#diplomacy,
which is the ending of every Star Trek
TNG.
Well, I mean, in the end, right?
Yeah.
Even in Deep Space Nine, after all the moral complexity, like Cisco still delivers like a speech about understanding and compassion, and then it's like, all right, bro, let's make
Only
peace.
he does it cooler.
All right, let's make peace. And I think Picard also did a lot for Data's legacy, allowing a more poignant goodbye than what he was given in Nemesis, which was a very like throwaway death, you know. Yeah, but like I said, unfortunately, things didn't get good until episode 7, and it takes way too long. Do you think it took too long?
It took too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they should have tied up the earlier episodes, explore certain things and all that, because you need those supporting characters in the future.
I mean, they formed the crew at the end, right?
Exactly.
For some reason, they're back in Starfleet. They have the insignia and all. Like Starfleet, it was just like Agnes.
You know what? Good job.
Agnes murdered someone. It's cool.
It's cool.
You know, 709, a vigilante and Fenris Ranger.
Who killed a lot of people.
Let's just join us once again.
Yeah.
It felt weird.
It did.
I know Star Trek is forgiving, but come on, not that forgiving. You have to pay your dues a bit.
So I mean, I'm quite interested to see where this goes, lah. I'm guessing there's a second season.
Yes, yeah, already greenlit second and third season.
Yeah, so I would be interested to see, because now the first season story is really done and done.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, we'll see where that goes.
I think, right, this story had just enough for a very, very excellent 90-minute movie.
Oh no, you're right.
If it was like a 90-minute movie, it would have been like phenomenal.
And it's just called Star Trek Picard, yeah.
Yeah, but then stretching it out to 10 hours is just, whew.
Yeah, there's a lot of fluff in there.
Yeah. And I feel also like it brings back a lot of Star Trek lore.
Yes.
But heinously disrespectful of some things. Like okay, like Icheb is a really important character in Voyager, brought in season 6. So are Hugh and Bruce Maddox. And they discarded them in
seconds.
In a manner that felt that it was throwaway. Their deaths were like plot points, and they made very little effort to convey the sense of importance or loss to long-time viewers. And new viewers don't understand why they were important. Icheb's death in particular is probably brutal. It is the most violent, goriest scene I've seen in Star Trek history. And it was just a cold open and a plot point meant to motivate 7 of 9, who in Voyager was like his adoptive mother. So on paper it makes sense. In execution it felt flagrantly wasteful of important relationships and characters that mean a lot to us.
Like Hugh getting killed in like literally a second.
Yeah.
And then the retribution even then also was another second.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any, and because I just knew Hugh like 2 months ago, you know.
True, yeah.
And so
I've known him for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, so I have just enough emotional resonance to know this character, and I was so pissed. I was like, "That's how you're gonna do Hugh?"
Yeah. Icheb was introduced in Voyager as a child, so I watched the character grow up into a man, and then he joined Starfleet. He was a former Borg and everything, and
reform Borg,
and then he just
died
in like the first like minute of an episode, and then credits. That's the end.
It's just to push Jerry Ryan's character to vengeance, lah.
Correct, yeah. Like and to be honest, like I'm okay with 7 of 9 killing people. She's always done that. Like it's not
a break of a character.
It's not new for her because she was never Starfleet.
Oh yeah,
she was an adopted member of Janeway's crew, which was stranded in the Delta Quadrant. But she was never initiated into Starfleet. She didn't join. She didn't take the oath and succumb to the morals and
fucking
everything.
Voyager was lost.
Yeah. So I mean, she's always had a different code of ethics than the rest of Starfleet. So I'm cool with that, of her murdering people. So I don't understand the anger about 709 is killing people. Do you watch Voyager? She killed people like all the time.
I mean, I watch clips and all to catch up on the character line.
Yeah. But like. Okay, that's fine. But I was mostly unimpressed with the new aspects of the show, the new characters, the new villains. Even I think outside of Narek's sister, very poorly built. I didn't understand her, and like even her death didn't feel satisfying.
Nope.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if like you got to know her a bit better, and then like you got to know that she thought that she was on the right side? You know,
we got like a tiny glimpse of that.
We got an abstraction of the idea that they feel that they're on the right side.
Yeah, and that's it.
But then like you could have spent a few episodes like really delving into them, like why they're doing this, why they're doing all these horrible things.
Correct.
But then you get to know like, to them like they're trying to stop the fucking apocalypse. You know, like this is necessary. Maybe we can empathize with them more.
Yeah. Now we just look at the Romulans as crazy people.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, they are lah, but you know what I mean lah.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't suck, but they were just functional.
Yeah, functional. Correct. They just did enough to make you like, okay.
Yeah, they are functional. And plus, I feel after Control in Discovery in season 2, yet another evil AI threat seems repetitive.
It is. That was what I was gonna bring up next.
I was like,
why is it always AI?
Didn't I just see this in Discovery, which was the most recent Star Trek show? You know, the galaxy is a big place, bro.
It is.
It doesn't always have to be about synths.
Doesn't have to be. But that's like the only threat they can think of right now. Like they kind of used up everything already. Like the Borg is done, you know.
No, but the beauty of Trek is that they created new races, they created new moral dilemmas,
but I'm saying
new cultures.
I think
and the problem with new Trek is that these new creators are not inventive enough to create a new world, a new civilization to build, to explore moral dilemmas in, you know.
Yeah. But I think they saturated. I think they are at the point of saturation.
I don't think so. I think like you can be endlessly creative.
I know, but I just think that they are saturated. Not that the ideas are saturated. It's just that they couldn't come up with anything else really.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why lah, but because when I saw, hey wait, this is kind of another AI thing that's happening.
I mean,
but in the body of an android lah. You know?
Yes, yeah, I get that. Like I think the point of the season was data.
Yes,
and a data centric season.
It's gonna
have sims lah, so I can kind of forgive it.
Yeah.
But if going forward, if like season 2 is
it's
just
still
enough, like more AIs, you know. What if Control comes back? Like I'm just done lah. You know.
We're good, brother.
Can we have something new, please? But that being said, right, I know Star Trek very well.
Yeah.
In fact, in preparation for Picard, I watched original series,
You did.
Discovery,
You
Enterprise,
did.
TNG,
You
Voyager, Deep Space Nine, all the Star Trek movies, all the Star Trek TNG movies, and the Star Trek animated series, which is canon, by the way, from the 70s.
Yes.
So I spent about a year and a half watching all that. So I spent about 2,000 hours watching Star Trek.
He did.
So
I can verify this.
Previously, I used to think that, like, in Singapore, I was like maybe a good Star Trek expert. Like I knew enough, like, because I watched it live, lah.
Like you can debate.
I can debate, yeah. But now, like, I think like I am like elite level. I know it's very fresh, lah. Like I know Star Trek back and forth, lah.
Yeah.
And I can say for certain that no Star Trek show has ever had a good first season.
Yes.
All season 1s are horrendous.
This is not horrendous though.
Yes, that's the thing. And just by virtue of the fact that this is middling, it gives me so much encouragement. It's like no Star Trek season 1 has ever been, in my opinion, above like 3 out of 10.
Yeah, but DS9 was horrendous.
Yeah.
Oh,
horrendous for seasons. They've never been good for seasons.
Yeah.
Second seasons have been middling.
Yes. But it's like them finding their legs, and like by the third, fourth season they got it.
Third season is like on fire. Every show has followed that route.
Yeah.
And to my dismay, like I found that Discovery has been like that also lah. I mean, horrendous first season. Second season started finding its legs a bit. And maybe third season will be like
even better. Especially now where they're in the far future.
Yeah. So it tells me that this show, like all Star Trek shows, will get better eventually. In fact,
it has a good start now.
It has a capability to actually be great. Yeah. Because on the plus side, you know, this is the best looking Star Trek show I've ever seen. Like technology and all, you know, the acting is great all around. No issues with the actors, issues with the characters lah.
Yeah.
And the climax, I think, brought it all home. So, despite my low rating of a 5 out of 10. This is by far the best season 1 of Star Trek I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10.
I know, like, there's this contradiction in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This 5 out of 10 season is amazing lah.
Yeah.
It gives me so much hope.
I know what you mean. It's because it gives you so much hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
because the potential to be great is there.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Especially when you got freaking Patrick Stewart as fucking Picard again.
Yeah, I mean, you have a crew with like interesting characters that you know a bit of the backstory.
Like the captain.
Then you can explore Rios lah.
Yeah,
even Rios, I think like did a fantastic job acting, playing all the different.
Exactly, all his AIs, right?
All his holograms.
That was damn cool.
Yeah. I heard people complaining about it too, but again, it was a concept introduced in Voyager because the Doctor was also a hologram in Voyager.
Yeah.
The emergency medical officer. So why not have emergency navigation officer or everything lah?
Yeah, for everything.
Yeah,
I mean, he was essentially running the ship himself.
So if Voyager, which happened like 20, 30 years ago, had this technology already, why would you think that it wouldn't be expanded upon in the next couple of decades? And it didn't expand upon it that much lah.
Nope.
So okay.
I mean, there was just one plot point they used lah to get him out of the room.
It was a bit of a Tiani Maslany showcase for him.
That was quite cool though.
For like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, we're done with this. Yeah. Okay. Season 2 thoughts. I mean, what do you think is gonna happen with season 2?
I have no idea, brother.
I know Whoopi Goldberg is reprising her role as Guy.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. 709 is part of Picard's crew also, which should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, she has really carried lah. Yeah, ever since she's been there, she's been useful.
Yeah, but wasted lah, writing wise.
Right now lah.
Yeah. There's a lot of dramatic potential, I think.
I like Elnor.
Elnor, yeah, also you can.
Yeah. He has.
Elnor doesn't really have much of a backstory.
No.
He grew up in an orphanage.
Yeah.
He became like
he's the only male of his warrior species thing.
Yeah, Romulan ninja
Monks. Nuns.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Well,
I guess he's a monk.
He's a monk.
Yeah. So I mean, you can explore all that lah further on.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to give it all away in season 1. I get it. There will be season 2 and all of that. I think there's lots of potential if they set up. I'm not saying that she's gonna be a villain, but I'm saying as an antagonist, not villain, antagonist.
Oh, that's a whole other thing, yeah.
Captain Janeway in season 2. Because as the antagonist, it will be the one person that will make 7 of 9 turn on Picard. Because of course she would trust Janeway more than Picard in whatever quest. I mean, she, again, like, you can explore her mentality, why she's doing something that Picard opposes, but both of them can be doing quote unquote the right thing.
Just from a different perspective.
Lah, yeah. So if you wanna like set up a turn with 7 of 9, you know, like have Janeway be there, and then like, you know, 7 of 9 will always go with Janeway because Janeway is the one that saved her, right? You know,
her loyalty
has been with Voyager way longer than she's been with Picard.
Exactly.
You know, so that would be cool.
Oh, actually, I like that idea so much.
Yeah, because that was the first thing I thought of, like, you know, introduce Janeway as not a villain but as an antagonist.
Yeah. Because it'd be so boring if it's just like a rogue Starfleet captain.
Correct, yeah. You know, or I mean, go into different aspects of the galaxy, like go to the Gamma Quadrants, you know, in a sort of a Deep Space Nine quasi sequel of sorts, or lots of possibilities. So you can go back to the Delta Quadrants. Yeah. You know, one of the things that really made the new AI. Okay, I'm sorry to bring back the AI.
No, go ahead.
You know, the ascended AI from 200,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of wasted potential there because in Star Trek canon there have been a lot of archaeological episodes that discovered ancient empires from 200,000 years ago that were mysteriously destroyed. You know, why not mention that like the Tekon Empire or something was the thing that the civilization that did the 8-star solar system, you know, because like in that episode of the original series, they were the one empire that could move suns, you know. Yeah. So I thought, oh, okay, they could connect that, and then it just didn't, and I was like, it's right there,
wasted
guys.
opportunity.
It's right there, you know.
But there are so many Easter eggs.
But also, this AI, what I wanted to mention was it is the first thing that we've encountered outside of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yes,
because Star Trek has never gone beyond the Milky Way because it's just not feasible. Top warp speed is 9.99999975, which is about 63 billion times the speed of light. Or if you go transwarp like the Borg, that's about 93 trillion times the speed of light. But even at that speed, it will take 200 years to reach the edge of our galaxy, and then it's another 100 years to go to Andromeda galaxy, and then who knows how big that is, right? So there is potentially 600-year to and fro journey, which is why we've never gone beyond our galaxy. That's just not feasible.
Unless you're AI lah.
Unless you're AI lah, or unless you have like portals.
Yeah lah, wormholes lah.
Wormholes, the Bajoran wormhole, for example. So, I mean, okay, that's another thing that kind of annoyed me about Discovery. Sorry to go on a Star Trek.
No, we are on a Star Trek topic. It's fine.
So we find out like in Discovery, like for fucking 100 years, we've known about the Mycelia network.
We have,
and then they left Voyager stranded on the Delta Quadrant when they had the technology to bring them home.
Wait. Discovery took place
before original series.
Right, original series, right?
Yeah. And original series is before TNG, which is before DS9, which is before Voyager.
Agreed. But then remember, by the end of season 2, they disappeared, right?
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So
but they still knew about the Mycelia network.
Yeah, but the experts are all in the damn ship. And the other experts died already.
But there's only one ship.
There's two.
There was two.
Yeah, but that ship got destroyed.
That ship got destroyed, right?
True, but nobody ever brought up that possibility.
Maybe
like they brought up so many things.
Because both the ships got destroyed. Like, I mean, to them, right?
I have a feeling that they'll answer that question in upcoming
maybe
season.
But I think it's because both ships disappeared. One died. I mean, one got destroyed. One disappeared.
Sure. Yeah.
So then most probably like, okay, let's not explore this anymore. I guess it doesn't work.
I guess.
You know, that kind of thing?
Yeah. But the Mycelia network was so interesting to me. It was the one thing that I liked about Discovery because we've never been outside of the Milky Way galaxy because propulsion is just not possible, right? Like, forget the fact that you need to refuel, that you need to stop. The engines are not going to run forever. Let's say you have a magic engine that can run full steam ahead. Yeah. Transwarp, 93 trillion times the speed of light, right? It will still take a couple 100 years to get to the Andromeda galaxy, but not with the Mycelia network. They could have actually explored the universe. First time ever in Star Trek, and then like they disappeared.
No, they're going to do it on Discovery, ma.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
Hopefully lah.
Well, because we don't know where they are.
Well, we'll see when Discovery Season 3 happens soon on the Star Trek Network. CBS All Access.
Yeah.
Next up, we'll be talking about the third season of Castlevania. I think while we often employ a sliding scale when judging video game adaptations, Warren Ellis's take on Castlevania is the one adaptation that's genuinely good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like no qualifiers. Like, for a video game, it's okay. No. It's just a good show.
It is.
Yeah, because all of us here are big fans of the first two seasons. Now in season 3, we get
Still a big fan.
we get a continuation of the high quality visual storytelling, mature narrative approach that Castlevania has provided so far, plus all new characters, a vast expansion of the world, and some of the most what the fuck moments of the series so far.
Out of that, that area.
Yeah. And okay, the setup is this: in the aftermath of Dracula's death, Trevor and Sifar are traveling. Alucard remains at the castle in misery
As a guardian.
As a guardian. Isaac, he's social distancing. And Isaac is returning to Europe for his revenge.
With
while
all his demon babies.
Correct. While Dracula may be dead, however, the surrounding areas remain in bloody chaos with many stray monsters from Dracula's army still on the loose. Meanwhile, Dracula's former vampire generals have their own plans to take advantage of a power vacuum. That's interesting.
Clever.
While there are random mad magicians and priests and Satanists everywhere,
and monks,
just
unholy monks
wreaking havoc. And I think season 3 was a goddamn blast, man. I really enjoyed this. What do you guys think?
I was so afraid that with the death of Dracula, how the fuck are you gonna fill up that hole, that very big hole that you have built up over 2 seasons, right? It's freaking Dracula. What are you gonna have? So I was kind of anticipating a dip in quality, I was wrong. Goddamn, the exploration of the 3 sisters, those vampires, four of them. I mean, the 3 are new, and then the 4 of them, damn cool story.
Yeah, a totally different way of governance, right?
Yeah, and then you had the new budding romance of Sci-Fi and Trevor, which is fun. Their bickering is awesome, and even the story, even though I had fun with them, you know. And Alucard and his 2 new disciples. That entire story was kind of interesting until the end.
The Japanese vampire hunters.
Yeah. I was like, it was so clear that those guys are going to betray you.
Sure.
Sorry, spoiler.
But drama lah.
Drama. Yeah.
Of course they're going to betray you. Because there's the dramatic potential in it.
Exactly. And so it was so perfectly done. I thought this season was really improvement on a really good second season.
For sure.
And especially in a world post-Dracula, I think Castlevania, the games have never done this. I mean, the story in the games is barely there. So to see such nice world building in season 3 is fantastic.
Yep.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Asa?
I am surprised that there are not more sad Alucard memes floating around.
There should be more.
Because every time he's on screen, it's basically Alucard just brooding, right? No pun intended, but literally just brooding all the time. What I love about what they did in season 3 is that they gave every character their own very solid and very well developed arc. Maybe with the exception of Hector, right? But everybody else got.
I think Trevor and Cypher are one arc.
They're definitely one arc, and that portion of the story they aren't even the most interesting character. It's Saint Germain, who's the most interesting character, right? And a lot of questions in that particular one, and most of the action takes place in that particular arc. But so good though, good. I really already enjoyed how much they decided to humanize Isaac and Hector and even Dracula in the second season. But now Isaac has a full-on arc. Extremely compelling. Probably the most compelling character this season.
I think the 4th protagonist of the show.
Yes,
because we were divided into basically 3 storylines this season. And Isaac was one of the main ones.
One of the main ones, for sure. And he didn't have to share it with anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, I guess 4 storylines if you include
share with his demons.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, and the captain.
The ship lah.
Well, if you include the storyline going on in the vampire castle, that's 4 storylines lah.
Sure. So really, really good. The introduction of the new characters have been quite good. I think Saint Germain was an interesting kind of
Bill Nighy, right?
Side character.
Was it Bill Nighy?
Yeah, it's Bill Nighy.
Oh,
nice. Okay. So one of the more interesting side characters, I like the introduction of Lenoir especially. I thought she had a really, really great I was just telling Hidzir, like, her diplomacy is like textbook negotiation tactics, right? And so good, so good, the way she just kind of played Hector.
Yeah.
But overall, extremely beautiful. Soundtrack is amazing. And like, they're not afraid to allow some scenery chewing here and there.
Yes.
Which I think is fitting of a Alice story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, I've got no complaints. I'm curious to see where else this goes. I think they've taken the time to focus on after the battle at Bralia, right? Like, taken some time to focus on individual conflicts and struggles, and eventually building up into probably another large scale conflict again, where we will get to see all the action and stuff. So I'm pretty excited, and I think it was a great season actually.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it too. I mean, it wasn't quite perfect, but I was kind of too busy soaking up the cosmic horror and carnage and the sex and debauchery to really care about any of the nitpicks lah.
That particular montage of fighting with demons and the sex and all of that at the same time reminded me a lot of Requiem.
The drug taking and the sex,
and all that, right? And the horror. Wow,
I
so
think
good.
That particular sequence, the action in general kind of remains the highlight of the season. It features a lot of brutal, intense, kinetic, dynamic fight scenes that with the most dynamic that we've seen so far. It's all, I don't know what the word is. Metal. I think the word is metal. It's fucking metal as fuck. And the epic sequence you're talking about in the penultimate episode, which is intercuts two separate epic battles.
Yep.
And
with
two separate steamy sex scenes. Very well done.
Very well done. So
but beyond that, also I think Castlevania is also the rare adult animated series that like to take a breath and sit down and lets its characters have long, difficult philosophical conversations about the world they live in and their place within it, and it considers like the theology and the politics of power in very thoughtful ways. Very few adult metal kind of like shows like this like would take a risk in like letting characters sit for 10 minutes and just talk about these things.
Yeah, and I think in that vein, Castlevania is very much like the medium that they chose. It is very anime.
Oh yeah,
extremely anime. Despite the fact that other than production IG who does the animation, Alice just leaned into it, right? Like the whole idea, like without a lot of the corny tropes or without the fan service, right? There's nothing that's inefficient or wasted. Yeah. In terms of the storytelling, so good. So good.
Yeah. I think running at 10 episodes as opposed to season 2's 8 or season 1's 4, the series is able to take advantage of the additional real estate to proceed at a more deliberate pace than previous seasons to really flesh out everything.
Exactly. Now they have more people to introduce also.
Sure, yeah. Exactly. And virtually every episode still contains at least one great action set piece to keep your attention.
Yep.
But there is a slower, more philosophical undercurrent running through the season. There's a lot of introspection, a lot of debates. It's a kind of testament to, like you were saying, of Warren Ellis's writing.
Yeah.
That the conversations so deep, never feel ponderous.
Yeah, it's quite
they,
amazing.
They had this ability to like tell, okay, it's time to move on now.
Sure.
Like stop talking. Let's go.
We've done the chin stroking. Let's do the chin punching.
Exactly.
And every character mostly is fascinating, and every character has compelling motivations and worldviews. All very different worldviews, also. Even new concepts like the infinite corridor, which appears to be a transdimensional portal through space time, is such a awe-inspiring idea. And I think Castlevania Season 3 overall is just more ambitious, charting new territory for the series' ongoing narrative while taking the time to really examine its lead characters and largely places them on different paths, While the bloody action and monstrous behemoths are still a constant presence, the video game adaptation isn't afraid to take more storytelling risks, as it forges ahead way beyond the original source material. Great dazzling animation, vibrant and fun, I'm rating this an 8 out of 10. Concluding thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, it's an 8 out of 10 for me as well.
I really thoroughly enjoyed this season.
Predictions for where they're going to go from here.
Wow.
I personally think that it has the potential to be a really long-running series.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of generals and queens and whatever still out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
More
with the infinite
political
corridor,
intrigue.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get some like old ones coming into the picture.
Maybe, yeah.
That's like the kind of horror that we are experiencing. They've shown right now.
Yeah,
it's very in line with that.
There's a whole slew of European night orders and all that are around. You know, you can introduce the Ottomans also.
Don't you feel like this feels
So
a lot
much
like
possibility.
this is the most Game of Thronesy season where
It is.
everybody had their own storyline.
Yeah.
They never quite diverge, but you know they will eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually,
you know?
yeah.
But not yet. Let's be patient.
And
with
it's
it.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To revise that statement, this was when Game of Thrones was good.
Yes.
The good Game of Thrones seasons, like
Yeah.
season 2 and 3.
Yeah.
This
That's
is
what I get.
before Park 4 had to close down.
Oh yeah. Oh, spoilers for Westworld. I'm so sorry, guys. Ignore that.
Yeah. Sorry.
What? It's not a spoiler. Everybody knows that Park 4 has to close down.
Oh, spoilers.
Come on.
But,
Small spoilers.
But I don't say Westworld is kind of killing it at the moment.
They are.
Next up, we'll be talking about The Invisible Man. You guys get to see it in cinemas before it shut down.
I did not, unfortunately. Yeah.
Hadi, did you?
No, I did not also.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
this is your this is like a quick hits, I guess.
yeah, I guess we were leading into quick hits slightly before
before.
Altered Carbon, which we'll be talking about later. Invisible Man, if you don't know, it's actually now available on VOD already. And if it's been released, so you can download it. You can buy it on iTunes, Amazon Prime, Vudu, whatever your
preferred
lah. Yeah lah. If you don't feel like going out to buy the Blu-ray, which is also available, you can buy it online.
So we heard a lot of good things about this movie.
Yeah. So a bit of background on this first. The new Invisible Man movie is the result of a major course correction by Universal Studios, which at one point was planning an MCU-esque series of interconnecting movies.
The Dark Universe.
Called The Dark Universe, based on its classic horror monster movie properties.
Yeah.
The first of these was the 27 Tom Cruise movie,
The Mummy.
which also ended up being its last when it severely underperformed at the box office. Plans for a big budget tentpole features starring A-list actors based on properties like
Russell Crowe.
like Frankenstein, which was supposed to have been Javier Bardem.
Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll and Hyde.
Correct. The Invisible Man was supposed to be Johnny Depp, etc. lah. Were subsequently scrapped, and Universal wisely decided to scale back its plans. Its new approach now focused on more modestly budgeted, updated takes on properties crafted by experienced horror filmmakers.
Not action guys lah.
No. They're not making a superhero movie again. They're just making horror movies. You know, a bit like what Penny Dreadful did. You know, which is good. Penny Dreadful did The Dark Universe way better than this. But to help implement its plan, it first teamed up with Blumhouse, which is great because Blumhouse is horror is their thing. That's all they do day in day out. They just do horror only. So this is the first round of their partnership. First up is Lee Winnell, who is the director of Upgrade, which we reviewed last year. We really liked. He also did Saw, and he did Insidious. So these are all really good horror movies, at least modern horror classics lah.
Yeah.
So his ingenious reinvention of this classic sci-fi horror is for the Me Too era. Easily one of the year's most tense and terrifying movies. Loved this movie a lot. Elizabeth Moss turns in a tour de force performance here.
Yeah.
Truly some of the best work of her career. And if you think about The Handmaid's Tale and Mad Men, you know, that's quite a statement.
Yeah.
She really digs deep to play a woman who's abusive and recently deceased, or so she thinks.
Wait. You mean she's being abused?
Yes.
Okay.
So she plays a woman who's abusive or recently deceased, supposedly boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
Returns to torment her as the titular Invisible Man.
How do you become invisible?
Let me just say that this is like a masterclass in mounting tension.
Uh-huh.
This amazing film is just chock full of nerve-wracking suspense and dread. It's also an emotionally visceral look at the damage left behind by an abusive relationship. It's a clever spin on a classic that incorporates very primal fears. You know, the fear of being disbelieved, the fear of seeming insane, the fear of being watched and followed. And we are watching the psychological unraveling of a gaslighted woman, and it's agonizing. She's trying to tell people that her boyfriend is back. He's invisible.
He's trying to kill me.
Not trying to kill her.
Oh.
Trying to make her look insane.
Oh, gaslighting. Oh, that's what you said. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, of course, like not her friends, her family turn her backs on what they believe to be a crazy woman.
You need to be in a psychiatric hospital.
Which is exactly what his plan is, lah.
Yeah,
to like fuck with her. You know, he doesn't want to kill her.
So good.
Yeah. He just wants to, because she ran away from him.
Yeah.
He wants to make her like feel like life is nothing without him. He wants to get her back, essentially.
Yeah lah.
And it does all of this on a micro budget, $7 million budget.
$7 million.
Yeah, just using clever camera work to show empty spaces. They just shoot empty spaces, and it lets your mind do the work. let's show you a couch. Oh fuck, is there someone on the couch?
We don't
and
know.
then you're like, oh fuck, what the fuck? And then like I suddenly getting tensed up, and I just realized that Lee Winnell just shot a couch.
But it's how they shot the couch.
Yeah.
Makes it...
It's like in certain moments they just show you like an empty corridor, and like, oh fuck, no wonder it's so cheap. Like they're just shooting nothing, you know. And then they let like your brain do the work.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay. Look, I'm not gonna say that Lee Winnell is Hitchcock. I'm gonna say that Lee Winnell is Hitchcockian in his approach.
Okay. That's a whole other thing.
Because I've said this many times, like, oh, Lee Winnell is like Hitchcock, and people start to think that, oh, he's as good. No, I'm saying like his techniques is Hitchcockian, because Hitchcockian, he likes to let your mind do the work, like subtlety, more of suspense rather than like jump scares.
We're not saying that he's the king of horror.
Yes. I'm just saying that like he does a lot of like let your mind do the work, the Hitchcock tricks. The less is more approach is something that Spielberg kind of copied from Hitchcock for Jaws, because you never quite see the shark. Right? And it works again here. It's the same technique. This is I think a must-see modern horror thriller classic. Very timely also with its themes, very frightening, very poignant. The direction and production and sound are all outstanding, but really it's like Elizabeth Moss who owns this movie, right?
She has to act to nothing.
True, but a lot of superhero movies do that also screen, but like Elizabeth Moss fucking like owns this movie I just kind of hope one day that Elizabeth Moss gets to play someone who is not being like abused you know. She's a very expressive
from Mad Men to like.
Well, she wasn't quite abused in Mad Men, but she was like marginalized as a woman in the advertising industry.
And then she gets hit.
And then
the worst
she gets
Handmaid's Tale.
Routinely raped in the Handmaid's Tale.
Exactly.
You know, so just like maybe let her do a rom-com or something. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah.
I'm so sad for Elizabeth Moss.
You just want to see her in a happy movie.
Yeah.
But she's so good at being tortured.
So good. She's good. She's like the LeBron James of like tortured women acting.
Yeah.
So this movie, despite its very short run, made $100 million.
Damn.
On a $7 million budget.
So just in that one.
And let's say we double for marketing.
1 month. Yeah.
Even if we double for marketing, right?
Yep.
That's still a lot of money.
Oh, but the 7 million includes marketing.
Fuck off.
Yes, the actual filming budget was 5 million.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So okay, a lot of people are going to say that, oh, but The Mummy made 130 million.
Yeah, but how much was it?
Mummy was made for $200 million.
Yeah, guys.
It lost 70 million. Yeah. This is $7 million that it made 100 million. And Blumhouse always does this.
Yeah.
They do things for like
shoestring
between like $5 to $15 million budgets that make 100 million. 100 million is not much, but when that is your budget,
scale up lah.
Finances, man.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to how horror is better when it's cheaper, I think. Like in the hands of a creative director who knows how to manipulate your mind with like very lo-fi things and make it feel more real.
Then it becomes more like real, and also it makes it more satisfying in the end.
Yes. Oh shit! Sorry, I just put like a cigarette in my coffee, and I did not realize that.
What is he doing?
Well, I'll take care of this later. As my co-host talk about the new season of Altered Carbon, which also has an anime attached to it.
Re-sleeved.
Re-sleeved.
It's a cell shading anime.
Yes. So what do you guys think about well, let's talk about both lah. You talk about live action first.
Yeah, let's do live action first.
Season 2, and then let's talk about re-sleeved.
Well, the live action was interesting. It was interesting at parts. I liked it like 6 out of the 10 scenes. I would say like every episode, like 6 scenes are good, and 4 scenes are like weird.
What is going on?
Yeah, like what is happening?
I felt that a bit.
Anthony Mackie, I feel, is a very good. Wait, how to say it? Again, mixed bag, because he can be really good at times, and then at other times because he's so charismatic and so easy, to like him.
Okay.
But then other times you're just like, what the fuck is happening?
I have a huge issue with Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, there is no question about his pedigree as an actor.
Yes.
Right? Especially for genre stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he can act. I mean, he's a capable actor. He does action scenes very, very well.
I just feel he was miscasted for the role of Takeshi
Kovacs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I had a huge problem with that because I do know the moments that you're talking about where he's extremely charming, but that's Anthony Mackie being Anthony Mackie.
Exactly, that's the problem.
And he's not being Takeshi, right?
Yes.
But I also don't think that he has that. We know they hated Joel Kinnaman.
Oh, Joel Kinnaman, yeah.
He's Kinnaman.
Even he's RoboCop.
What?
Even he's RoboCop.
He's RoboCop.
Sure.
Yeah. right?
I'm just there sarcastic.
But I think
if you like the new Robocop,
as bad as I mean, if we go along this, like as
Yeah.
bad as Kinnaman's portrayal of Takeshi Kovacs, like, he left an imprint on that character,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
That unfortunately, Anthony
Brow
Mackie-
furrowing, the
Yeah.
very stoic.
yeah, Anthony Mackie struggled to
do that.
Do that,
Yes.
right? Because at the end of the day, right, we have to stretch. We have to suspend our belief that at the end of the day, it's the same person in different bodies.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
And that doesn't come true at all,
Yeah.
right? To put it, because I watched this season with my brother, who's a big fan of the first season, and he's just basically like, Anthony Mackie isn't cool enough. He doesn't play it cool enough, right?
Like if you got like, okay, I don't know, I'm Sebastian Stan to do it instead. You know what I mean?
Why are you bringing up the Captain America debate again?
No, because
so unrelated.
I know, but because you casted Anthony Mackie, I cannot but help. But let's say you casted Sebastian Stan instead. I feel Sebastian Stan could have done stoic better.
Sure, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Right.
he's also, both of them are my Captain Americas. Okay.
Yes. So I mean, like, that was the big problem, and I do understand, like, it's a bit more emotionally charged this time round.
Yes.
Because, Olaf's come back,
Yep.
and the stakes are a bit higher this time round.
I guess yes.
And there's not so much of a personal struggle. Jaeger
Murder mystery? No more murder mystery?
got a
Oh,
bit.
murder mystery.
Yeah.
got murder mystery at the
Beginning.
lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that kind of gets left at the wayside.
Yes.
What I really did enjoy, however, is the side characters this time round.
The side characters
because
are great.
Misty Knight comes back to kick some ass. And
Not
I
Misty
really-
Knight, but yes, she's damn
Yeah,
good.
yeah, she's really, really good. And I really enjoyed.
She has her own TV show, by the way.
Really?
She plays a judge
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay.
in some like CBS show or something.
Like Judging Amy, something like that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah.
But yes, I really like that. Again, Poe is an excellent
Yeah.
character study
Poe is
this
cool.
time round. The new AI.
Yep.
Uh,
I like Poe's character arc also.
Yeah, it was really, really
Yeah,
good.
it
I
was
think like very, very well acted. very, very like well, onto AIs again. But so it's such a sympathetic
Yeah.
character, right?
I like the political intrigue that Harlan's world was going through with all these maths getting murdered.
Yeah.
Right? So that whole like maths always had this idea of immortality getting fucked in the in the ass by this like unknown killer who's just killing them outright.
Yeah.
Where they cannot back up and all that. So that's quite interesting. This classist kind of like thing that's going on, I loved it. Yeah. But just Anthony Mackie lah. Like
Right.
I find myself falling in love with him, and then at the same time I'm like,
Yeah. So we again have a double sleeving, right? Again, and they bring back the original Takeshi, like his birth
at the
sleeve,
beginning,
right?
yeah.
And then there are these moments where they share the screen together,
Yeah.
and they're having conversations,
Yeah.
and you realize how stark a difference between
Anthony Mackie is.
the two,
Yep.
right? That you didn't kind of experience with like two Joel Kinnemans at the same time, right? And yeah, I just couldn't kind of shake that,
Yeah, and I guess I like that they tried to. I mean, they added like new like things that his new sleeve could do, right? Like like the summoning of his guns and all that stuff.
Magnetic
Cool
hands,
lah, cool lah.
but barely used.
But then exactly. You introduce all these things and you barely do anything with it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, really didn't seem like the combat. I didn't feel like the action sequences in this season were as good.
Yeah, definitely not.
I feel like you definitely lost something without I can't remember the actress' name, but Raylene. Because Raylene brought a lot of fire. To the action sequences that she was in.
But she did,
But yeah,
right?
yeah. As
Season
far as
one.
we know.
As far
As far as we know.
It's a new showrunner, so do you guys feel that it felt different?
it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But there was a sleekness to it that it was more sleek this season though.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, shorter. Like it felt every episode was a lot shorter, so it felt more like it was easier to watch than last season.
Yes, because last season there was a lot of scenery.
like
killing.
oh my god, hurry up,
Yeah.
let's go.
I do feel like they carry on with the world building is still good.
Yeah, it's still good.
Prop design, costumes,
on point still.
just the look and feel of it looks really, really
The cyberpunk thing is working.
Yeah. But I do feel like I was hoping for a bit more. I think like knowing that Val Chris was coming back this season, I wanted a bit of a deeper dive into exactly what the envoys could do, which I feel they didn't quite deal with in season 1.
In season 1, correct.
And then now in season 2, it just
Also,
Yeah, they just like
Like
bypass
that
it, and then this whole scene they're all surrounding him and they go through the trial, and I'm just like, dude, like really?
What? So what is so great about Envoys? I don't get it now.
Like, it doesn't. Because that hasn't been communicated.
Yeah, they've been building up Envoys as being this like badass, like military grade, like guys with superpowers.
Right? Like it kind of borrows from the whole like Dune idea of your mentat assassins, right?
Yeah.
Right, where you basically like you have predictive abilities because you notice everything.
Yeah, this didn't happen.
But there's so many times where like Takeshi just doesn't notice the shit.
Yeah.
And it becomes driving plot. It drives home the plot. So
how about Resleeve though? Okay, so for the live action, I'll say that I give it a 6 out of 10.
I will give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
But
So I'm not watching it.
don't have to.
Sure.
Really, don't have to.
Okay, so let's talk about Resleeve.
You're not missing anything, really.
Yeah, you're not really. Let's talk about Resleeve.
Yeah.
So Resleeve came out 2 weeks after.
19th.
19th, right? Yeah, so 2 weeks after we got season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, the fact that it is in Japanese
It's awesome.
makes it such a phenomenally great leap in quality. Right? Again, as per Netflix, we've got more cell shading. So you got your pseudo like kind of 3D animation going on here. There were moments in time where I did feel like the animation let it down. The voice acting, however, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the action is insane.
For shell shading, yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, we've seen a lot. I think like comparable to the Ultraman series that we saw.
Yes.
Right? So really, really good action sequences.
Correct.
And there were a few like kind of behind the scenes that they did with the director just to kind of like he explained why he chose to do things in a certain way, which I was pretty interested in. But the whole movie or short film being in Japanese lends an incredible gravitas to the world.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of like Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like obvious cyberpunk kind of thing lah.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I love the action. I did love the new girl that was introduced, Holly, is it? The dragon tattoo girl.
Yeah.
She
the girl
literally
who
had
makes the dragon tattoo. Yeah.
But I don't know. I left a bit unsatisfied, I guess. At the end.
It was a side story, right? This would be an OVA.
Super side story, man.
For sure. I do think that...
and I like how easy he is to be... Like how Takeshi Kovacs is like... How rich people can just... Hey, go get that guy. Like, just sleeve him in. We need his help.
Yeah, we need his help. I mean, like, obviously...
it's all these rich people lah, because they're the only ones who can afford it lah.
Yeah. But it's a Yakuza arc.
Yeah, it's a Yakuza arc.
Basically, it's a side story. This takes place... 3 years, I think, after Falkris dies.
Yes.
Right? And it reunites the brother and sister again on an adventure where they actually may or may not know that they are the siblings. Which brings to mind, like, how do you know? Like, how do you know if someone is who they say they are?
Exactly.
Right? But I do think, like, some great voice acting. I think the guy who plays Takeshi this time round
makes more sense.
Makes so much more sense.
But that's because, you can kind of use the animation to help portray certain qualities you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Takeshi
But I
Kovacs.
think it played it to a T.
It did.
I really did enjoy that. And it just makes so much more sense.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we once again get a corridor fight scene.
Oh, of course.
A very good corridor fight
A
scene.
very good corridor fight
To be
scene.
fair. So if you don't watch Altered Carbon, you can just watch this anime.
Yeah. So
It's fine.
Hids and I had a small discussion about the fact that it's a lot like anime tricks. You know?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The whole idea that it works better. The world simply works better.
It's just because what you can explore in an animation, and you're not restricted by a lot of things lah.
Yeah, exactly. And I really enjoy
Imagination run wild kind of thing.
So for me, I mean, it's not that much higher
No.
than season 2, but I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because I feel like I would totally watch an Altered Carbon anime over
the
the
Altered
current
Carbon live-
Altered Carbon live
same.
action.
Interesting. Is the anime an anthology?
No. It's just one
it's just,
movie.
As far as we know, it's just one.
Yeah. It's not like Animatrix. They have small stories in
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But I thought like of all the things Altered Carbon, anthology would be
Exactly.
I hope
a
they
given
expand
lah.
into an
Eventually lah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
because it was really good.
Yeah,
and it would be quite good. I mean, why the Animatrix is a good comparison. It would be interesting to do it in that style where you have different kind of animation styles.
Yes,
in one. Because of the world of Altered Carbon, you know, you have such a beautiful, vibrant world that you can really explore with different kind of animation. Yeah. But yeah, who knows? We'll see lah.
How'd you rate Receive again?
Receive, you gave 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5.
I'll give it a 7 lah. Yeah.
7. Okay. So it sounds like it's worth a watch.
Way better than the live action.
Okay, cool. Very nice. Next up, we'll go into hard hits. Hard hits. That's our other.
That's a wrestling podcast.
Yeah.
Where's Shafiq?
By the way, WrestleMania 36 this weekend will be up there. Quick hits, which is a section where we talk about. Well, I talk about all the stuff that Michael hasn't seen, some of the smaller titles out there, or just stuff that they haven't been able to watch due to time constraints. First one I would like to talk about is actually a pretty big one. It's Pixar's latest effort. It stars Tom Holland and Chris Pratt as the Lightfoot brothers. They are elves.
Oh, they're elves.
Elves, yeah.
I thought they were trolls.
Yeah, me too.
They're
blue.
They're elves, apparently.
Right.
They live in a world that is kind of like ours, but inhabited by fantasy creatures like centaurs and unicorns and dragons. So there used to be magic in this fantasy world. It was just like all the other Western fantasies
but
we've
then
seen.
Technology improved and all that.
The prologue explains, but then technology came along, and that was much easier. Rather than learning a spell to cast light, flip a light switch, we emitted electricity. So people abandoned magic, and magic went away. So you cut to the present, in present-day elf suburbia, where mystical creatures are just leading average lives. Like they're watching TV, they're going
like
to school, like us, exactly. Flying unicorns have become like dumpster diving pests, things like that. Dragons have devolved into domesticated like pets, things like that lah. So the plot begins. That's just like table setting.
Yeah.
The plot begins in earnest on Ian, who is one of the elf brothers, Tom Holland's 16th birthday, which is when his late father arranged for him and his older brother to get a gift that he left behind for them. A wizard's staff and a spell that would let him return to the land of the living for one day to see how much they've grown.
Yeah.
The spell, however, they're not experienced magicians. They don't know how to do magic.
Because technology has taken over.
Yeah. So the spell goes awry and only brings back half of their father.
Oh no.
The lower half.
Oh no.
So
good for the mum.
True. But the mom didn't know that yet. So so now the brothers have only 24 hours to find a gem that they need to complete the spell and spend just a little bit of time with their father. So they bring his disembodied legs around with them.
Aww. It's like breakfast with Bernie's.
Weekend at Bernie's. To make it
breakfast
easier,
at Tiffany's. Sorry.
They attach a stuffed torso to his waist, and then leads him around with a leash. So yes, Onward is 100% Weekend at Bernie's for kids. Where the movie excels isn't the world building or the fantasy side gags. It's the great dynamic between the brothers. I think Pixar is very good at doing emotional dynamics, especially family dynamics. So Bali is a bit of a burnout who loves power metal and tabletop role-playing games.
Aww.
So in Onward, the fantasy RPGs are actually historical. And Ian, meanwhile, is mostly defined by being nervous and wanting friends and an embarrassment over his older brother. So Bali knows all about magic, yet he has no idea how to use the staff his father left behind for him because he doesn't have the gift. Ian is a science guy. He has the gift. But he has the gift. But he doesn't know the first thing about casting spells, so they have to work together. Bali knows the spells, Ian can cast it. As they go on their quest together, Ian and Bali learn to kind of trust and respect each other, which is kind of the arc of the movie, while each comes to understand the way that the other has learned to cope with their father's death. So the stuff about the brothers dealing with the emotional baggage and their grief works super well. Pixar level good. If there's one thing that Pixar knows how to do is to make you cry, and yep, I did tear up during the film's climax. But where it fails is almost everything else. The plot is a bit forgettable. The jokes don't quite land. When worst of all, despite its mashup setting, Onward doesn't ever quite feel magical. It's a world built purely to facilitate some jokes. Not an immersive window into another place you want to fall into. It's not like Coco or Inside Out.
I was going to ask whether it's like Coco.
It's all earnest enough to work, and it's delivered with a sincerity that makes it hard to say it's bad. It's not. It's fine.
But I guess
a perfectly good film.
But
unfortunately, when it comes to Pixar, being good or even being very good,
it's not good enough.
Feels like a disappointment. Because like, if Onward came out on DreamWorks, for example, this would be hailed as like a masterpiece.
The next Shrek,
But the fact that it came out on Pixar, people are just like, it's a mid-level Pixar movie. It's kind of disappointing.
Wait, what's the last Pixar movie that got released?
Coco?
Coco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Coco is...
Yeah.
That's a high bar.
That's a super high bar.
Well,
man.
I mean, Pixar always has a high bar.
Exactly.
You know, if it's not Coco, then it's Inside Out. And if it's not Inside Out, then it's Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 is the last one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're all very high level movies.
Yeah.
Like,
The expectation is really, really, really there.
This is a 7 out of 10 movie.
Wow.
That's what I'm gonna rate it. And it's a good movie. Just disappointing for Pixar.
Yeah, that's the problem. We set such a high bar.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is more of a Cars level movie.
Yeah, which is Disney / Pixar, right?
Yeah. But I mean, still, it's a Pixar movie that is okay.
Cars?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Cars. There's nothing wrong with this movie.
But there was something wrong with planes.
True. But
And
that was
Planes 2.
there was the direct to DVD one.
And there was Planes 2, the one that he was a firefighter. Okay, no, man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Although admittedly, this is also direct to VOD lah.
Yeah, because of COVID-19.
But not because of the quality of the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Due to extenuating circumstances.
Alright, but how's the voice acting though?
Voice acting is not good. I mean, not in to say that they don't emote well. It's just that Tom Holland and Chris Pratt are not voice actors, so they just sound like Tom Holland and Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Talking
That's what I
to each other
figured also. Because when I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, that sounds like Tom Holland, Chris Pratt.
Yeah. But they nail the emotional moments because they are good actors. They can nail emotion.
Yeah.
They just cannot do the voices lah.
Understand.
Yeah, which is fine.
Okay.
I can let
So
that
7 out of 10 lah.
7 out of 10. It's released online early, available on VOD now. Go check it out if you want to. It's actually worth a watch. Just if you have time, of course you have time. Go watch this.
Yeah.
Next one is something I'm actually very excited to talk about. It's called The Platform. The Platform is on Netflix right now.
Okay.
It takes place in a dystopian future or present. I'm not actually sure whether it's
So they're all on this platform.
Alright, okay. Let me explain the
Yeah,
premise.
please tell me this. I'm so confused when people explain this to me.
They are inside a vertical prison system.
Okay.
Where everyone has to share food from a single platform that lowers one floor at a time.
Oh, okay.
Each inmate is assigned a floor, and there are over 300 levels.
Oh no.
With folks at the top obviously getting the first pick of the food, and then the scraps are further down lah. So the lower you are on the ladder, the more likely it is you will starve because there'll be less food. As hunger and desperation continue to manifest in horrendous ways, one man, the inmate that we follow, tries to change the system, but it may not be enough. So the premise itself is kind of this robust allegory for capitalism and the fallacy of trickle-down economics, akin to a bit of like Snowpiercer meets The Cube.
Okay.
It's also it's very smart, but it's also goddamn gruesome. Featuring some of the most disgustingly outrageous scenes I've seen in recent memory.
Alright.
This film is this imaginative, carnivorous, claustrophobic, cannibalistic nightmare. And it looks at all of the ways that the privileged can prosper, but it's also actually more interested in how the downtrodden devour each other when trapped in inequity. What makes it interesting is that every month, right, your level changes randomly.
So you can go to the top or you can go all the way to the bottom.
So you could be living comfortably on level 6 for 1 month, and then you can be dropped to level 218 the next month. You just never know, you know. It's random.
Okay.
And then you find yourself in level 50 the following month. You're middle class, so to speak lah. And the characters who've been there for a while know to eat as much as you can, because you never know what will happen next month.
Oh.
You either gorge now or you starve later lah, but you need the calories, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you're assigned an upper level, you must gorge because you might need that for the next month. You never know, right?
Yeah.
But despite the fact that they all know what it's like to live at the top, what it's like to live in the middle, what it's like to live in the bottom, people only look out for themselves. To the people on level 35, they look down on level 36. They're like, oh, you fucking like idiots, you know, blah blah blah. Then they like piss on their food or after they're done, and then like send it down. And then they blame the people at the bottom for causing trouble when they're hungry, because you know you get punished for like when there are riots and people eat each other, things like that. That happens.
So everybody get punished.
So like you look down on the people at the bottom, it's like, oh, why are you doing this? You know, it affects the rest. At the same time, those people are also blaming the people on top above them for not giving us enough to eat.
So modern society lah, basically.
It's essentially like you're blaming the people at the bottom, you're blaming people at the top. You know, it's in the end you have to take some personal responsibility for how the society
like this,
functions this way lah. It's very interesting. It shows that people are too often trapped in their own circumstance to think about others, even when they understand how the others live. Because they have been at level 218 or level 300, and they have been at level 50, and they have been at level 1. The thing is that the food offered is more than enough.
For everybody.
More than enough to feed everyone, but people rarely spread the wealth. It has nothing to do with being evil. It's about circumstance and an uncertain future. And how much can we blame the system, and how much is it our own fault and our own responsibility to adhere to morals when things get desperate lah. You know, there are a lot of different ways to live through an experience like this. An experience that the platform clearly suggests is kind of this cipher for society at large, and you can just accept it and take what you can for yourself, or you can try to talk to those around you into solidarity, spreading the wealth around. Or you can coerce others into taking their fair share by threatening them. Some people, like for example, they just jump on the platform, then they go down, and they stab people who try to take more, like just to ensure that everyone has enough. Or of course, you could just go on a murderous rampage and eat your cellmate.
If there's no food,
a lot of the people at the bottom, that's what they resort to because there's just no choice. It's a very potent movie, very interesting.
Yes, extremely.
That's a good premise.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
It's one of the most like visceral allegories in recent like history. So good.
I got a lot of like, I mean, it's the cube because futuristic prison system, but also a lot like Snowpiercer because levels of privilege.
So closer to the cube, less to Demolition Man lah.
I mean, not at all Demolition Man
yeah.
actually.
Yeah,
'Cause it's just set within itself lah. Yeah.
I just rewatched Demolition Man, that's why.
3 seashells lah.
Yeah.
Like who needs toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
You know, the people in the future know you wash your ass with the 3 seashells.
Exactly.
Sorry if you haven't seen Demolition Man. It's a really good movie.
Surprisingly,
It holds up, man.
huh?
It holds up.
kind of, right?
Yeah.
We should do a
Retro
review.
I think when we reach May, right, we probably might need to
First one, Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
Because of all the non-touching.
Oh yeah, the non-touching, the people washing their ass and everything. But it's a dystopia when Taco Bell is the most popular fast food.
They won the fast food wars, bro.
Next up, I'll be talking about Gretel and Hansel.
Yeah.
It's the new take on the grim fairy tale that is very, very grim. Feeling a bit like it's the young adult version of A24's art house horror, but for young adults. Gretel and Hansel is like the cinematic cousin to The Witch. Or the Witch, however you want to pronounce it. We all know the story, but this is a really thoughtful revision of the classic fairy tale, relying on a...
Sorry, who wrote this fairy tale again? Is this one of those...
Brothers Grimm.
One of those guys, right? Okay.
Brothers Grimm.
Okay.
Yeah, not one of the... Specifically them.
Yeah.
But we all know the story of Hansel and Gretel. This is a very good revision on a classic. It has this very thick atmosphere of dread, an internal disquiet, rather than jump scares or an external threat. It's gorgeous. It has just the most beautiful cinematography. It has this woodsy production design to really drive home the unsettling unreality and brutality of the story. It has a heavy visual emphasis on like very symmetrical framing and stark contrast and lush use of like yellows and blues to kind of evoke subliminal horror. This movie like lives and dies on atmosphere. It's a very atmosphere movie, and its atmosphere is so thick and dense and mesmerizing. I really loved it. The movie has a very deliberate pace and of slow burning dread that is not made for a mainstream audience looking for more visceral thrills and spills, but for the thinking audience, it rewards your patience. There is a lot to love visually. It's really like The Witch. It's so beautiful, and thematically in terms of performance and everything, it's all wonderful. Gretel is played by Sophia Lillis, aka Beverly from It, who is having a very busy month. I'll talk about her next in I'm Not Okay With This. But this is probably her best work of the month. Its leisurely pace may be a problem for some, because I know generally from the reaction to The Witch, a lot of people don't like that kind of stuff. But for me, like, this is really, really good. I spent the whole time savoring its macabre occult mood. So I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I forgot to rate the platform, which is an 8.5 for me.
Ooh, even better.
It's an 8 for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next, I'll be talking about, speaking of Sophia Lillis, she also stars in a new Netflix show called I'm Not Okay With This.
I haven't watched
I
it.
got this.
Yeah, it reunites her with her It co-star and fellow Losers Club member Wyatt Olaf, who plays the character Stanley here, for a superpowered teen dramedy. It's written by the guy who wrote The End of the Fucking World.
Yeah.
It's produced by the producers of Stranger Things, and it stars the leads from It, as I mentioned lah. So if this show sounds like a generic kind of mishmash trying to blend together all the great teen genre shows from the past few years, you'll be kind of right.
Yep.
I highly recommend that you read the indie comic that this was based on, because that was a bit more profound, a bit more emotionally complex.
Yep.
But this just feels like the TV version of it feels like Lock and Key. Actually,
Yes.
in a sense that Lock and Key was also a mishmash of various other things.
Yeah.
Like some studio hits decided to copy and paste ideas and vibes from other shows, and yeah, it can just kind of feel like that. The series follows Sydney, played by Sophia Lillis, who is a 15-year-old mad at the world. Whether it's because of the loss of her father, social isolation in high school, or an unrequited crush on her best friend Dina, played by Sophia Bryant. But suddenly Sydney discovers that her frustrations allow her to tap into telekinetic powers she didn't know she had. Certainly the superpowers as metaphor for teenage out-of-control emotions, or specifically in this case a teen's hidden queerness, is a kind of a time-tested formula that has been around since the X-Men, and can work wonderfully. Here though, the YA angst is a bit more compelling than the superhero stuff or the superpower stuff. And Sid, or what Sid may or may not be able to do with mind lah. So I really like that aspect of it.
I did.
More than the actual genre aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't much.
Yeah.
There wasn't much genre stuff to begin with, which I felt was a bit sad because the comic itself has a good balance between both.
Yeah.
Right? And the exploration of both her powers and how it's linked to emotions, it's a lot more in-depth than what we ended up getting here. It's just kind of strange to me that now with Lock and Key and with I'm Not Okay With This, we're starting to see
Indie comics being adapted?
Indie comics being adapted at its own peril.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're throwing like big names and like recognizable names, and most of the time you'll say like these things will be, oh yeah, it should be good. It should be okay. But again, you know, for the second time this year, we've gotten
with beloved indie horror comics or indie genre comics.
Another meh kind of thing. And even with End of Fucking World Season 2.
Yes, which kind of diverged from the comic because the comic didn't have a sequel. I did think I thought Sydney's friendship with Stan, played by the It co-star, was kind of the focus of the show, and it's actually pretty good.
It was nice. Yeah, it was pretty heartwarming. It's quite cute, quite awkward.
Sweet and comfortable chemistry, you know. I think Lillis is already quite a proven performer at 18, I think.
Yeah.
And she's again really good here. I think like the girl, like Sophia Lillis herself is a star.
Yes, I think so too.
I think she just needs to be used for better material.
I agree.
And when she's given better material like in It or Gretel and Hansel, and she really pulls it off. I think Olaf also has kind of the charm and comic timing of an ideal, what's the word, emo heartthrob. He pulls off like the self-deprecating wit and passion, love of music and a penchant for vintage apparel, like very like early 2000s teen show prototype. She kind of brought that back.
I can see that. See that. What was interesting to me is that this felt a lot more like sex education than it does with like End of the Fucking World.
Yeah, I agree. It's very John Hughes-y, which sex education is very influenced by as well. That's kind of the appealing aspect of it, and that's the thing that kept me hooked. But the supernatural or superpowered stuff isn't very well done. I almost wish this was just a regular teen show.
I would watch it if it was a regular teen show, for sure.
Yeah, then it could actually focus more on the emotions and on the arcs and stuff. So 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 5.5,
Okay.
What's
next?
Next is Superman Red Sun.
Oh, how did this go?
I mean, we've all read.
You know the story.
Yeah. This is DC's latest animated film. Obviously, if you don't know, an adaptation of Mark Millar's iconic Elseworld story.
What if?
It envisions a world where Kal-El's rocket landed in Soviet Russia instead of the United States. The film does well to condense an epic tale spanning decades, using Cold War history to probe the fundamental nature of nature versus nurture. Namely whether the Man of Steel is inherently good, or if his heroism is a byproduct of his Kansas values, which he was raised with. Indeed, much like the comic, the film recontextualizes a lot of DC characters like Wonder Woman, Batman, Green Lantern, Lex Luthor, Lois Lane, and others.
So wait, is Batman Russian?
Yeah. Like in the comic.
Yeah.
To explore how one's ideals and beliefs are shaped by the imperfect politics that we grew up with. It isn't a black and white take, but instead chooses to show both the good and bad sides of political systems that underpin America and the USSR.
Like the comics.
Which makes for a very morally complex tale.
Yeah.
Besides the politics, the action and voice acting is also quite top-notch.
On point, okay.
Making it a very fun watch.
Nice.
On the downside, the condensed nature of an animated movie, being 90 minutes, removes a lot of the comics' nuance and deeper depths in favor of better pacing.
Alright.
So, give and take for it to be a movie. All in all, really good adaptation. 7 out of 10.
Not bad.
Yeah.
What's next?
Do you guys watch Kingdom?
Still on it. I haven't finished it.
Alright, no worries.
Season 2, right? You're talking
Season
about?
2, yes.
Yeah.
Korean zombies are back, and I'm not talking about the UFC fighter.
I mean, okay, I watched the first episode of season 2, and I think it kind of continues
Sure.
the interestingness of season 1.
Sure. Netflix, it's a critically acclaimed Korean period zombie drama.
Yep.
And it was a really solid watch for season 1.
Yep.
Season 2 picks up right where season 1 left off, with Crown Prince Lee Chang and his battalion setting up camp to ward off the zombies.
Yes.
But now, the zombies don't go to sleep the moment the sun is up.
Nope.
It turns out they were never afraid of daylight. They just don't like warmth. And like Game of Thrones, winter has come.
Yes.
And the zombies are attacking all day.
Yep. All day, air day.
So, yes. Everyone has pointed this out, but I just have to point it out too. Like, this Game of Thrones thing. When winter came, zombies are here. And much like Game of Thrones, it's also a complex political drama about corrupt politician prospering at the expense of the poor. And season 2 is still mostly driven by the intrigue within the royal court, not so much by the zombies.
Yep.
Like Game of Thrones. As corrupt or power-hungry, ultra-nationalistic members scheme to use the outbreak for their own gain, done at the expense of the poor, as usual. So you follow that. It's a fun watch. Kingdom doesn't quite reinvent the wheel when it comes to medieval court intrigue or zombie dramas, but it does the basics of both very well. Yeah. Season 2 has a very good grasp of character, fleshing out both the heroes and the villains in nuanced ways, which in turn keeps us invested in places where the narrative does drag, because at least we care about the people.
Yeah.
It's nothing special. Action is good. Production design is gorgeous. Story is engaging. So check out the series if you have time. It's not great, not bad. It's a 7 out of 10 too.
Alright.
Yeah, and it's a quick watch. It's 6 episodes.
Yeah. I'll be done by tonight.
Correct. Next up, I'm going to be talking about Guns Akimbo.
Hey, this is the Daniel Radcliffe one.
Yes, set in the near future, this indie action movie proposes that the internet is obsessed with a real-life video game called Schism, where random people are selected to fight to the death with actual weapons and vehicles. Online troll and all-purpose slacker Miles, played by Daniel Radcliffe, enjoys the Schism matches, which is basically like watching popular Fortnite streamers, but with a higher real-world death count, like Fortnite meets the UFC. He trolls the wrong live stream, and a group of hooligans arrive at his apartment, brutally beats him and bolts guns to his hands, and abducts him into the game. Again, Miles must fight for his life with guns bolted to his hands. And he's informed that he's going to die unless he kills the current Schism champion, the undefeatable Nyx, played by Samara Weaving, who I really liked in Ready or Not, which I reviewed last year. It sounds fun, right?
It does.
Yeah, but it sucks.
That's what I wanted to know. Because the trailer really looked fun.
The film it ultimately fails to capitalize on its concept, and it gets smothered by its very smug, abrasive tone. Most of Guns Akimbo's dialogue squanders an intriguing idea through truly excruciating attempts at humor. It kind of oscillates between snide comments and gay jokes and shock jock edgy one-liners. In one scene, the screen-obsessed Miles, he only watches live stream, doesn't go outside. He remarks that the world looks so HD when he goes outside. So that's the kind of humor that we're dealing with.
Cannot. I roll my eyes already.
That's it lah. That's like the height of wit. And the humor might actually have been tolerable if the film was at least imaginative. Too much of Guns Akimbo consists of unremarkable car chases and really generic gunfights, so even the action isn't good.
Oh no.
So we watch a lot of people fire a lot of guns against a lot of concrete walls, and sometimes the movie deploys a hyperactive camera style that's zooming in and out, slow motion, fast forward. It has like this what's that movie? Crank. It has a Crank aesthetic. Except it's not nearly as good as Crank even.
Crank had this whole like time limit kind of feeling.
Correct, yeah.
That they did really well.
Which is like a game, right?
Yeah.
And most of the flourishes might even distract from the action choreography, sometimes obscuring it altogether. So this movie is fucking terrible. It's a 2 out of 10.
Ayo.
Next, I'm going to review something that I kind of promised that I'll review last month.
What is it?
Coming out of HBO Europe is a new show about time-traveling Vikings called Foreigners.
Yes, you told us about this. Yes, how did it go?
So get it, the title is a conflation of Before and Foreigners.
Be Foreigners.
The series posits a situation where time-traveling refugees from 3 eras, the Stone Age, the Viking Age, and the Victorian period, have been mysteriously transported into modern-day Oslo, Norway. No one knows how or why. So you fast forward 5 years later, and the so-called Be Foreigners are struggling to integrate into modern Norwegian society. And the weirdest of all, this whole thing is a police procedural.
Yeah.
Because
Why
sure,
not?
because every show has to be a
Yeah.
police procedural. You are Satan, okay, also police procedural, can.
Lucifer.
Because the show follows a woman who was formerly a shield maiden in the 11th century,
Yeah.
but has integrated by becoming a police detective.
Makes sense.
Sure. She and her partner are drawn into a series of murders where the
Uh-huh.
victims appear to be time-displaced people.
Uh-huh.
And why would time-displaced people be targeted? Well, because folks in the modern times are not too happy with their presence. They don't like these refugees that come from other...
Foreigners.
Yeah,
These
they're
be
foreigners, you know.
foreigners.
So it's it isn't just a murder mystery. It's also a metaphor for, I guess, the
Immigration.
refugee crisis and the migration issues plaguing Europe at
I
the moment.
guess.
In order to support the allegory, they had a refugee character speaking Old Norse as well as other
Wow.
languages, including their quote-unquote Stone Age language which they invented.
Yeah lah.
And
That would be a bit weird if they had. Like,
correct. And an older form of Norwegian from the 19th century. Of course, the behavior and customs are very different, so it's an intriguing concept. But beyond the premise, it's a kind of a meh series.
Okay.
The allegory is a bit
On your head?
too on the nose.
On the nose,
A bit too heavy-handed. And the story and character is fairly basic.
Okay.
Not quite recommended. I feel I've judged it to be not recommended.
Okay.
It's a 4 out of 10.
Better or worse than Wellington Paranormal?
When the Paranormal is a 7 or 8.
I can't remember what you gave it lah.
So yeah, that's Wellington Paranormal, one of the better series that we've ever reviewed.
Okay.
This is one of the worst series we've ever reviewed.
I mean, police procedurals ma. Better than Lucifer or worse than Lucifer?
I kind of like Lucifer.
Then there we go.
Yeah.
This is not recommended.
Yeah, I've never failed Wellington or Lucifer.
Are you
It's
gonna
always
watch-
7 out of 8.
Speaking of police procedurals, are you gonna watch Freud?
Freud. Is it genre?
I mean, it's not. I'm just since we're on the topic of police procedures.
Maybe. I don't know.
I haven't watched it yet.
Sure. I mean, why not, right?
What's the premise of that show?
Freud assists in police procedures.
Oh my god. Okay.
Literally.
Let's move on.
Yeah. You know how they always get like the one guy, I am a murder novelist.
Yeah.
Castle,
Okay.
I study bones. I know mentalist things.
I am a serial killer's son.
Yeah. So we solve crimes for the police now.
Yeah.
That is generally the. But no, maybe I'll watch Freud. I don't know.
I'm just curious.
Last I will be talking about on Quick Hits is Amazing Stories.
Yes.
So
What amazing story are you talking about?
every streaming platform wants their own anthology genre show,
Like Twilight Zone,
like Twilight Zone for CBS All Access,
Black Mirror.
for Netflix. You know, everyone has their own anthology show. And Apple TV, that show is Amazing Stories. It's a reboot of the 1985 sci-fi series of the same name,
Amazing Stories.
created by Steven Spielberg. This new take on Amazing Stories is not amazing. I kind of quit after 2 episodes because the ones I watched were so bland and forgettable. Although like far from terrible, they're just meh. The biggest problem is that like CBS All Access's recent mediocre Twilight Zone reboot, Amazing Stories basically doubles the running time of its episodes from the original series. So these are hour-long episodes instead of the classic 20-minute episode formats. So the series aren't just pedestrian, they are bloated and stretched unnecessarily. In fact, I might even have thought these episodes were good if it was just 20 minutes, you know. You get right to the meat of the story,
Yeah lah.
you know. Perhaps this anthology show should take a page from Love, Death and Robots,
Where short stories.
which
where-
varies its runtime according to how much each episode needs.
If you need 50 minutes, you get 50 minutes.
If it needs 5 minutes,
It
you
gets
get 5
5
minutes,
minutes.
you know.
Yeah.
So that's all you need. You don't need to be an hour just for the sake of
Okay.
it, you know.
Yeah,
Especially when
yeah.
you're on a streaming platform where you're unencumbered by, I need to be exactly 44 minutes because it's got commercials, right? You know, why? So Amazing Stories, from the 2 episodes I watched, it's a 4 out of 10.
Oh,
Yeah, so not recommended lah.
roger that.
Next up, Isa will be talking about the Violet Evergarden, Eternity, and the Auto Memory Doll.
Yes.
It is a new Violet Evergarden movie, a side story if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's right.
That it was screened in Singapore earlier this year at Golden Village, but it comes to Netflix tomorrow. So what do you think of it?
Okay. For fans of Violet Evergarden, which I still think is one of the most underrated anime
Out there.
like hands down.
The
right?
show is on Netflix itself too, right?
Yes, everything
Okay.
is up on Netflix. The whole of season 1 is on Netflix as well as the OVA special, right? So everything's up, and with the inclusion of the movie tomorrow, that's the entirety of the franchise, right? As you guys may or may not remember, big fan reviewed this 2 years ago or a year ago actually. And the
a couple
movie,
of times during Anime Corner, you've brought up Violet Evergarden.
yeah, just
Always-
because
always recommended.
It's always recommended, and I think I gave it a really, really high score, like 8.5 or something like that. Right. So, Violet Evergarden, the side story, Eternity and the Auto Memory Doll, gives you more of the same stuff, right? And again, we are dealing with how people cope with grief after monumental tragedy. But what is different this time around is that it's coming off the back of Kyoto Animation's own tragedy.
Oh, the fire.
The fire itself. Yeah. So apparently, it's been reported that this movie was done
Before.
the day before the attack happened.
Oh, wow.
And it is also the movie is also the first release to come out of the studio since then. So I mean, like, it carries its own real world weight in terms of that. Essentially, Violet is continuing to do her job as an auto memory doll, and in this particular story, she goes to visit a high school debutante girl who is sequestered in the school itself due to the wishes of her father.
Okay.
Right. And it's basically a story about the two of them getting to know each other, and a strange form of trying to understand the sisterhood that exists between them as women, as well as kind of expanding on Violet's own relationship with her own crew of auto memory dolls.
Yes.
Right. Extremely beautiful. The orchestral music that spans the entire soundtrack is amazing, and it's always been. But it is so amazing to see this already extremely polished series, right? Fleshed out into like 90 minutes, right? It does feel like 2 really long episodes.
Oh, okay.
Because originally it was supposed to be 2 OVA episodes.
Right, so not quite a movie.
Not quite a movie, right? It does have a few pacing problems because it was edited from what was originally meant to be 2 episodes.
I see.
But it delivers more of the same.
Okay.
And I think here what is kind of amazing is the fact that there is relatively little dialogue, as with the original series. But they spent a lot more time in this movie on lingering on the facial
Emoting. Okay.
And for anime, that's really high level.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really have to say, like, the sheer skill that involved in trying to make sympathetic human emotion show on the faces of animation is pretty mind-blowing. Right. So all in all, I mean, like, I don't think I'll go too much into the story because there are a couple of like twists and turns here.
Surprises.
Surprises. That I think people should to watch and enjoy. But if you're a fan of Violet Evergarden, then you get 90 minutes of more of the same.
Okay.
It is one of those instances where I think it really kind of draws out the fact that the writers of the writer likes to allow us to go really in depth into individual characters that we will never see again, right? And I think with 90 minutes this time around, you get even more of that, right? So really good. I'm gonna give it a 7.5 just because of pacing issues, but very, very beautiful. Soundtrack is amazing. Voice acting is amazing. Animation is some of the best stuff that's coming out of Japan right now.
Okay.
Easily. Like, it's extremely detailed. There wasn't ever a moment in time in the whole 90 minutes where there was a drop in animation quality, right? Which is a huge problem for the anime industry in general. So yeah, big up to Kyoto Animation for continuing to put out amazing stuff.
Yes, yeah. Hopefully more.
And yeah, just like a really, really good watch. Very, very moving. I teared up a number of times from that itself. So 7.5 for Violet Evergarden movie.
Nice. And next up, we have a little segment every month now called Hardywood, where Hardy talks about a trashy action movie that we may or may not want to watch. This month, the title is Bloodshot.
Based on the comic.
Based on the Valiant Universe superhero Bloodshot, this time played by Vin Diesel. Valiant Universe's first attempt at creating a big budget action movie and trying to kickstart a new cinematic universe. How did that go, Hardy?
Well, it could have gone well, right?
Yeah.
If they didn't give everything away in the fucking trailer.
Yeah.
So, if you watch the trailer, you basically watch the movie lah.
Yeah.
You know,
Great twist in the middle.
Yeah.
Great, one of the best twists I've ever
in
seen.
the trailer.
But it's in the trailer. So what you gonna do?
What you gonna do, right? Vin Diesel does what Vin Diesel does, lah. Middling action, lah. I wouldn't say he's the best action star out there.
No.
He can't really fight the best. He can't really have the most. You know, he does Vin Diesel, lah.
Yeah.
Man, it was such a waste. What a good premise, you know, and that idea of this Groundhog Day kind of like thing, lah. You know, you wake up, go and kill someone, wake up, go kill someone. You know, different, and they keep replacing the faces with people they want executed.
Yeah.
You could have left it. You know, oh man, they just put it in the trailer, and it just ruined it. The trailer ruined the movie.
Okay, you want to explain the premise a bit for people?
So he's a soldier.
Yeah.
Nanites inside of him.
He has nanites inside him. So he died, and this company claimed has his body and infused this futuristic nanites where every wound that he receives will be repaired, lah. A healing factor, lah. Yeah. With nanites, lah.
Yeah.
Right. And these nanites can also go into like this what do you call it? What's that word? Overpower mode. You know, where he becomes even stronger and even more powerful and all that, which also wasn't really explored much in this movie. You know, because we know that the twist is coming, and when the twist does happen, it feels so flat, and there was nothing that really carried this movie. The acting was Isa Gonzalez. I love her. She's a gorgeous woman, and you know, yeah, that's all I can say about the movie, lah. You know, Vin Diesel has this ability to just irk me. You know, I like that he's a Dungeons and Dragons player. I like that he, you know, basically did The Last Witch Hunter because he could. I mean, it was based on his D&D character, you know. And, but I didn't understand why this movie was so meh, except that the trailer really ruined it. It could have been a passing action movie
To be
with
fair,
a good twist.
To be fair, Vin Diesel is overly concerned with looking like a badass.
Yes.
Hence his wrestling fans to call it 50-50 booking in Fast and Furious, where you put it in your contract that I can, like The Rock can only punch me the same
This
amount of times
times,
that I can also punch you. You know, so it's it makes for really dull, flat, invulnerable characters,
invulnerable, correct.
Which makes it hard to root for because he's never in any danger
The whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, he got shut down lah because, you know, nanites. So they can shut down the nanites. He gets shut down.
Yeah.
That's
also
about
has like
it.
a lot of like, you know, terrible dialogue and questionable cliches and weird accents.
Is that guy really British? The hacker guy?
Clearly not.
Right? He's not, right?
Clearly, dude, look. No, that was one of the questionable accents.
That was so bad. It was the worst English accent I have ever heard in a while.
Yeah.
Wow. It was just so wow. Like, why are you
Yeah, the one thing he had going for it was the element of surprise, which he gave away.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, it could have been a 5.
Yeah.
It's a 2.
Yeah, it was a 1 for me.
Yeah, there's no way that this movie. Oh my god, this movie sucks so bad.
Alright, and that is for this.
Don't watch it.
Hardywood. No, sometimes Hardywood like the Hardywood movies, the Hobbs and Shaw, for example.
Yeah, I like Hobbs and Shaw.
The backdoor pilot for this whole segment.
Yeah.
Was a good movie.
It was.
To cap it off before we talk about state of cinema, I would like to spend 5 minutes to talk about
your police.
The pool. Yes, I used to be a police in
the police.
The pool list. This month I'll be talking about an indie comic that's been out for a couple of years already, still running. It's called These Savage Shores. THESE. These Savage Shores. It's from Vault Comics, and I've only recently got into it, and I must say it's one of the best things I've read in 2020 so far. It's written by a guy called Ram V, and with art by Sumit Kumar, an Indian creative team from India. These Savage Shores is part historical fiction and part horror. It's a vampire story set amidst the British imperialism in India in the mid 1700s. It follows the East India Company as they seek to secure its future along this lucrative Silk Route. Yes. So the story begins by establishing a ruling aristocratic class or group of vampires in England who exert influence over the military, the economy, and the political matters in the empire. But when one of the vampires is caught eating one of his servants, the other vampires ship him off, exiling him to a ship bound for India. Because, you know, you just can't do this out in public. You be eating people, you're going to be exposing us. But there are monsters in India as well, like demons and deities.
I was just going to say.
far more ancient than this
worst place to go.
than this vampire. So this exiled vampire is killed by an entity called a Raksha.
Oh, monster.
After attempting to feed on a local Indian girl. The English vampires demand revenge, and in the midst of all this, we are also caught up in the political machinations of various sultans and the British and the Rakshas, and also a personal quest of a lone vampire hunter. So it's a complex interweaving story lah. The subplots are all exciting and they brilliantly come together. But most interesting for me was that the story, what it was trying to say about it is East India Company, which is kind of the first
They are the true evil.
corporation of the world. I think, you know,
a multinational company lah.
the first ever, right? Like which were extremely ruthless and powerful, and vampires in the story are kind of a metaphor for the so-called civilization of the West. They label the people in the East as savages, hence these savage shores. And reflected back on it. In truth, right, it was like mostly it was the British who were the real savages, right? And it does a lot to reclaim the word savage. It reflects it back on those who truly deserve it, which are the British.
So this is a post-colonial work lah.
Yes, set during 1700s British imperialism. So the British savagery is kind of disguised in the civilized aristocracy. But they're just as savage, or perhaps even more savage, right? So it paints a vivid picture of how civilized savagery in the guise of imperialism destroyed and dehumanized people they colonized or places they colonized. What truly sets these savage shores apart is the artistry of his characters. Ramvi is a wonderful writer who is adept at one of the most important qualities for scripting in this medium, which is knowing when to lace heavy poetic flourishes and then when to back off and let the artwork carry the scene. The artwork is beyond gorgeous and very versatile as well. Kumar doesn't just have a great sense of dimension. The moods, the emotion, and the tones are entirely set by him, not the writer. For example, all the London scenes are at night. They're in fog, they're in darkness. India is always in the day. They're lush and warm and beautiful. That's no accident. And Kumar adds a lot of visual detail and metaphor to complement Ramvi's rich prose to kind of exude the fact that it's Britain that's evil, not India. Not the traditional savages as they've been painted as. So yeah, a very, very good book. Still running now. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Yep.
I mean, it's quite interesting. Like, until now, you still have this kind of colonial hangover lah. Yeah, I like that it's capitalized in a way of fantasy
from actual Indian writers.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. It's clearly like it means a lot to them. Like this isn't just a British writer or a white person trying to
do an exotic story.
Yes. Which is a lot of times it happens to be that way lah. So a lot, like for example, Monstrous, I like that it's actually written by, drawn by a Japanese woman and an Asian American writer, because all the East influences could easily felt like very just so exotic for the sake of exotic. These are caricatures of our mysticism, right? But these people actually understand the mythology behind it and the people
and lived
through that, and lived in those areas.
Story,
you know what I mean lah. Who know what it's like to be living in a post-colonial society. So yeah, that's great. To cap it off, let's talk about movies, man.
Yeah, what's up?
Movies out of cinemas into digital right now. Universal has actually been at the forefront of this, releasing movies like The Hunt and which is not quite genre, but The Invisible Man, for example, all on VOD immediately after the theatrical run. But it's because of the coronavirus.
I mean, Singapore, for example, also locked down all their cinema.
Correct. So, but now you can buy it on iTunes and stuff. So theatrical distributors are very upset about this.
Yeah, because their revenue, ma.
It is their revenue, and especially they're taking away the revenue at a time when they might need it when they reopen, right? Because all cinemas are losing business.
All.
So, what do you think is going to happen for the future of theater going in general for us? Do you think that it's going to become a thing of the past soon, considering that like the coronavirus has kind of expedited a trend that was already going in that direction?
I mean, to an extent, it will definitely diminish the theater cinema scene. However, just like many, like art forms like live theater, for example, has outlasted plagues over the years, when people have to stop seeing them. But I feel, and I think that to an extent it will continue. It is just a form of human group activity that I doubt will disappear totally. But
do you think it might actually become more now that people have been cooped up for a long time? The second the theaters open, people be like, oh, let's go watch a movie together, etc.
Maybe
it needs.
It really depends,
I think what the huge difference is, right, between theater and cinema, right, as it exists today, is how much of an event it is, right? So, like we were talking about kind of like how superhero movies is an event, right? Going to watch superhero movies together is an event. Watching Star Wars, all that.
Correct. Yeah.
But what about all of those movies, right?
They are not events.
They are not events.
Yeah, but that's
If
the thing.
it's something that could be on Netflix, why not have it on Netflix?
Yeah, but even then, there is a split between indie movies that work better in a cinema than on a screen, on a Netflix screen. So there's always those movies that will always be made for cinema. Unless you're saying that there are no more cinemas at all, then all movies will be made for the screen.
I think nobody's saying that. It's just that now it has been a problem for a long time already. Where
They're like declining sales.
For example, the year that Lady Bird came out, same year that Avengers Endgame came out, Lady Bird was supposed to have, I think, a 3-month run in cinemas. It got a solid 1-month run before anything big opened, and then it was just relegated to 1 screen per cinema in the US. Rather than, and because Avengers Endgame took up the other 300 screens per Cineplex. And that's the problem with independent cinema already. Where they just don't have time. They're just not being given the chance to succeed because
the big movies
are out and they're more likely to succeed. So it's from a business sense, I get where the Cineplexes are coming from.
Yeah.
But it's also a bit like, I think that's the main problem that, guys like Scorsese and James Cameron have with superhero movies. It's not artistry of it, is that they're taking away from other smaller mid-budgets or low-budget.
But what to do, right, is demand and supply, right?
Sure.
And there's always a huge demand for this these superhero movies. There's nothing like it ever in cinema history.
There has been, just never been this good.
This big.
Yeah.
I mean, no other movie has been this big one. No other Marvel, I guess Endgame and
Infinity War were the biggest movies
ever.
Eclipsed Avatar recently.
Well, that one's technically a
little
little suspect.
Well, I mean, Avatar is of course inflation is probably the big reason why Endgame eclipsed Avatar. But Avatar also cheated in the sense that it had 3 theatrical runs.
That's true.
So it came out again, and then it came out again, and it came out again, and Endgame had 1 run,
and then the second run.
I
feel the event thing is important. Like, we do want to group event kind of thing. Like, why do we go to the cinema? Like, a lot of people are gonna be answering that in the next few months. Do you want
experience?
that? Is it a communal? Because I go to the cinema alone all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
We all do that when we got no time. We go watch it alone and all that, right? I mean, it'll be interesting to see where we will land, where the coin lands on this, but. I would definitely agree that there will be an increase in the number of streamed movies, the release where you don't have a theatrical release at all, and the industry will have to change and adapt,
absolutely,
which they have been doing to an extent
it's just that been enforced to adapt quicker
because of this
Because I already kind of saw this happening a couple of years from now, but it's happening now just because they have no choice and because they're experimenting with it, and if the fear is that if Universal realizes that they are successful with it
and they can make money, then
why do we need the middleman?
And to cut out the middleman,
because 50% of all returns go to the cinema, so why do we keep 100% of it? I think for big budget event stuff like your Star Warses and Marvel, the cinema will always be there. I think people will want to watch it with a group.
I mean, the interesting thing will be when studios start buying cineplexes
Correct. I mean, Netflix has their own but primarily that's only because of Oscar rules where they have to have a theatrical run. So if nobody wants to distribute us, we buy our own cinema, then we show it one time, then it's eligible. I think for others, I think horror and comedy are also things that we want a communal experience for. The fear of horror, things like Quiet Place and all, the quiet of the cinema cannot be replicated at home. Or comedies, people want to laugh together, So those
you want to hear that.
Yes, you want to hear that.
It's a very visceral kind of emotion, human kind of thing.
But at the same time, also things like, for example, Annihilation, which was straight to streaming, right? Which I thought would have greatly benefited from the sound and the bigger screen, the theater. Things like that.
That's what I'm trying to.
I think cinemas will continue to do perfectly fine so long as the experience cannot be replicated. Much like theater, right?
So that's why I said the movies made for screen, movies made for the cinema, two different things.
Yeah.
And we have seen that Netflix has kind of perfected the movie made for screens.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of Netflix movies, I mean, even though Narration is one of those that would benefit, tons of other movies, like Adam Sandler movies, a lot of them like fit perfectly in Netflix.
Sure, but Irishman would be great to watch
on theater.
On theaters, yeah.
Yeah.
I know 3 hours is a bit long to sit, but I've sat for 3 hours.
We did Lord of the Rings, for 9 hours.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah. The fear is that movies like The Godfather and stuff will never get a theatrical release going forward, lah. Movies of that ilk,
Yeah.
Like they deserve to be seen on a big screen because they're just that good.
Mm-hmm.
But the modern Godfather, like The Irishman, will be on Netflix now, lah. Just limiting it to a more niche audience.
Yeah.
The Irishman is an interesting case, though. I felt like The Irishman was like the death knell of gangster movies, though.
It was a eulogy for the gangster genre, and Martin Scorsese intended it that way,
yeah,
or at least his version of the gangster movie.
So that's why I thought it was kind of perfect that was on Netflix, like the new medium.
Fair enough.
You know,
right?
Yeah.
There is a certain poetry to that.
Yeah. But that's about it, lah.
I think as things move forward,
I would love to see it on big screen, though.
Of course, Same. But because we don't live in New York or LA where they would have screened it, then what are you gonna do here?
What to go do?
Unless the projector or something
decides to do it,
just like streams for my Netflix account. Puts it there.
It may very well end.
You can borrow my Netflix account.
Yeah.
Right, because at the end, you're always going to have, like, if we're talking about supply and demand, you're always going to have the desire for like the big blockbuster movies in there because the experience requires the big screen, it requires the great sound system, it requires people there to cheer and kind of like share in the fandom, right? And you're always going to have a lot smaller, right, cinephiles who want to watch indie films in cinemas.
Yes.
Right?
And there's cinemas built for that.
And there's cinemas built for that. And I think like more and more we're just going to kind of funnel into those experiences.
Yeah. The main issue that everybody's talking about is that it's that they can never break out beyond that niche right now. Yeah, those who want it will go out and look for it in the specialized cinemas. In specialized, nobody is going to go on Netflix and search for Mudbound, for example.
Correct.
Although that movie deserves to be in cinemas. In cinemas, they will have like random people like, Endgame is sold out. Why don't we go watch this random movie called Mudbound? Right? There's always a chance for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just now everybody's just going to be in their little hole. I have this specific fandom. We have that fandom.
The bubbles, lah.
Yeah, bubbles. Nobody's going to cross over and watch like Little Women, for example. That's sad, lah. Because Little Women's a great movie, and so is Ford v Ferrari, which in a different era would have been a major blockbuster because it's such a crowd pleaser.
It is.
Yeah, but now it's even more niche than indie movies because it's in the middle right now. It's that mid-budget crowd pleasing Hollywood movie that has no audience.
Yeah, because everybody's on one extreme or the other, lah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of sad, lah. Like it's the death of mid-budget movies too.
All the $50 million movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Marvel has the branding, so Marvel will survive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, lah.
Yeah. Like 7 clicks from now, and when the polar ice caps have melted and
Disney
all, there will still be a Marvel movie. It might be delayed a bit, lah.
Yeah.
But like Black Widow 7 will be coming out then, or something.
Played by another actress.
Playing Scarlet.
Dude, what do you mean? It's just going to be composite. It's just going to be like digitized.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that, lah.
Yeah, or like Scarlett Johansson at like 70 DH.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Oh, actually, I wouldn't mind watching a movie of her as an old secret agent, lah. A bit of an aging.
It would be dope.
Like a Helen Mirren kind of in Raid 2,
Oh God, yeah, that'd be so great. But I'm fantasy booking.
booking.
We'll be back next month. Where this is interesting because we have no movies to watch. Everybody's watching at home. I'm gonna split up you guys for each 2 series. Series. One series that we'll be watching all together is My Hero Academia, which will be coming to an end early next month. So we will all review My Hero Academia, right? Because we're all into it.
Yeah, I'm finishing already.
You're finishing already? Yeah. Everybody's caught up?
Yeah.
So that'll be easy. So My Hero Academia is a shared review. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Me and Hadi are big fans of a guy called David Simon who created The Wire and Treme and Generation Kill and blah blah. He has a new show out called The Plot Against America, which posits an alternate history, which is totally genre. So me and Hadi,
it out already?
Yeah, first 3 episodes out. And it's only 6 episodes, so it's a quick watch. Okay. So me and Hadi will review The Plot Against America, which posits where Charles Lindbergh beat Franklin Roosevelt in the 1940 election, made America isolationist and fascist and anti-Semite. Very potent for today's world. And then for Isa, I'm assigning a show called Devs, DEVS.
Oh, right.
It's a new show by Alex Garland, who made Annihilation and
I saw the
Ex
trailer
Machina.
for that, so yeah.
It's all about determinism. Nick Offerman has created a predictive algorithm which basically confirms that free will does not exist. So that's a show about that. It's very slow and very thoughtful, and more of intellectual. Well, it's Alex Garland, you know what you're getting. And then for Hardy, I'm assigning you to watch Dispatches from Elsewhere.
Okay.
It's a new show from AMC about... I'm not going to spoil it. It's actually very... It will blow your mind. It's very twee and whimsy. It feels like a bit like Michelle Gondry meets
so
Spike Jonze.
it'll be done by next...
6 episodes are out now. There's 24 episodes left.
Alright.
Very quick watch also. And then for Isa, Ghost in the Shell, SEC 2045.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Let's do it.
So like 2 shows each and then 1 show we share.
Alright.
And for quick hits, I'll be talking about Beastars, which I think Isa might jump
I'll
in
weigh
as well.
on that as well. Yeah.
I'll talk about a new show called Tales from the Loop, which is another sci-fi anthology series. But interestingly, based on a series of paintings.
Yes.
Which is the first time I think paintings have ever been adapted into a show. I'll be talking about the final season of The Magicians. I'll be talking about a new show from the Adventure Time people called The Midnight Gospel, which will be coming out on Netflix. I'll be talking about Letter for the King, which is a medieval young adult show on Netflix.
I started on that actually.
We're talking about Vivarium, which is an indie movie. Motherland Fort Salem, which posits that the Salem witch trials never happened, and then witches are now running the US military. Which is it's very interesting. Quite bad, but very interesting. And then another show that I've always wanted to talk about, I have never been able to. I'm going to be talking about the last season of Brockmire.
Oh, because it's in the it's in the future.
Because it's set in a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that fits, right?
That fits.
Yeah.
This is like the Hobbs and Shaw kind of. But this is actually, it fits better.
Yes. This is a dystopian future. There's sci-fi technology everywhere. But it's still about a baseball announcer and his alcoholism.
We still don't like baseball, by the way.
Sure.
It's just Brockmire is good.
Brockmire is a great show. Yeah. And for the poll list, I'll be talking about the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. I always say Becky Chambers. Because I just recently ordered it on Amazon. It'll be coming next week. So I'll probably read through that and I'll be done. Till next time, this is Hidzir.
Hardy.
Yeah, Isa.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if anything severe happens, like we're locked down or something, we'll probably
we'll do it remotely.
We'll do it like on Zoom or some shit.
Yeah.
Most probably.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but maybe there's a
It
chance.
won't.
We'll do it live.
There's a chance. Yeah.
Alright.
Do it live.
Let's do it live.
Let's just do like
All right.
an IG
Take care,
story.
guys.
Yeah.
Alright, bye-bye.
Bye.